Chapter 1940. However, even if Senior Brother Guli and Palace Master Zhu have mastered this secret technique and won't expose my background, it's only a temporary solution. With Yang Chang's status, as long as he uses the Northern Plethora Sect's intelligence network to investigate me, it'll only be a matter of time before he finds out about the Lower Province and the Azure Cloud Mansion. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, his expression turned solemn immediately. I must become stronger before Yang Chong finds out about the Lower Province. At the very least, I must be strong enough to kill Yang Chong before that happens. Yang Chong is a Saint Celestial Stage powerhouse who's ranked 146th on the Supreme Saint ranking. His cultivation base is definitely not just at the first form, second form, or third form of the Saint Celestial Stage. The Supreme Saint ranking was the supreme ranking that listed the top powerhouses in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Until now, Duan Lingtian had been in the Black Turtle Sanctum for quite some time now. He had learned some things from the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples that he did not know before. For example, from the 100th place to the 200th place on the Supreme Saint ranking, it was said that the weakest powerhouses were at the third form of the Saint Celestial Stage, while the strongest powerhouses were at the fourth form of the Saint Celestial Stage. Until now, Duan Lingtian had met 4 powerhouses who were ranked in the top 200 on the Supreme Saint ranking. Among them, the person who was ranked at the top was the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Lian. Lian was ranked at the 139th place on the Supreme Saint ranking. The second person was the Black Turtle Sanctum's Silver Flame Elder and Enforcement Elder, Guoxiong. Guoxiong was ranked at the 142nd place on the Supreme Saint ranking. Similar to Lian, the person ranked at the bottom was Yang Chong, the 5th Elder of the Northern Plethora Sect. Yang Chong was ranked at the 146th place on the Supreme Saint ranking. Lastly, there was the Black Turtle Sanctum's Silver Flame Elder, Tung Shan. Tung Shan was ranked at the 173rd place on the Supreme Saint ranking. From this, it could be seen that Lian, Guoxiong, and Yang Chong's strength were similar. Tung Shan's strength was slightly weaker than the former 3. If I want to kill Yang Chong, I'll have to be at the Saint Celestial Stage at least. My current cultivation base is only at the Divine Saint stage. It's still too far away from the Saint Celestial Stage. It seems like I need to find an opportunity to devour other people's innate spiritual roots to strengthen my own. As long as my innate spiritual root transforms into a violet innate spiritual root, coupled with the time flow on the 4th level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, it won't take long for me to break through to the Saint Celestial Stage. At this moment, there was only one thought in Duan Lingtian's mind: become stronger. He had to possess the strength to kill Yang Chong before Yang Chong, the 5th Elder of the Northern Plethora Sect, found out about his background. Otherwise, his friends and family in the lower province would be in danger. If something were to happen to his father, his mother, his wife and children, or even his other friends and family, he would never be able to forgive himself. At this moment, Duan Lingtian yearned to possess the strength to look down on the world. Let's find Palace Master Zhu first. After calming down, Duan Lingtian left the residence of the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples and headed northeast to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. The Zoroastrianism encampment was divided into 2 areas. One was the Saint Land, and the other was the 4 Symbol Sanctums, and the former was surrounded by the latter. The Azure Dragon Sanctum was located to the west of the Saint Land. The White Tiger Sanctum was located to the east of the Saint Land. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum was located to the north of the Saint Land, and the Black Turtle Sanctum was located to the south of the Saint Land. As the saying goes, West Azure Dragon, Eastern White Tiger, the Vermilion Bird of the North, Southern Black Tortoise. It was referring to the 4 symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism. The reason Duan Lingtian went to look for Zhu Luqi first was because the White Tiger Sanctum where Zhu Luqi was at was the closest to the Black Turtle Sanctum. Although it was very close to the Saint Land of Zoroastrianism to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum in the north, there was a rule in Zoroastrianism that stated those who were not Saint Land disciples were not allowed to enter the Saint Land. Otherwise, they would be severely punished. For this reason, Duan Lingtian could only take a detour if he wanted to go to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. This detour would lead him to either the Azure Dragon Sanctum or the White Tiger Sanctum. Since Duan Lingtian was going to look for Zhu Luqi, He, naturally, chose to take a detour through the White Tiger Sanctum. In the four symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism, the disciples of the other sanctums would occasionally interact with each other. For this reason, Duan Lingtian's appearance in the White Tiger Sanctum did not attract the attention of the disciples of the White Tiger Sanctum. After entering the White Tiger Sanctum, Duan Lingtian immediately went to the central altar of the White Tiger Sanctum. Naturally, he could only go near the central altar. The disciples of the other three sanctums were not allowed to go near the central altar of the White Tiger Sanctum. This was because there was a gigantic white tiger statue there. The statue contained the divine ability that only the disciples of the White Tiger Sanctum could comprehend. It was a high-grade offensive divine ability. If the disciples of the other three sanctums dared to go near it, they would be expelled from Zoroastrianism even if they did not extend their divine consciousness into the White Tiger statue to comprehend the divine ability. If they managed to comprehend the divine ability, they would be executed by Zoroastrianism. It's said that the central altar of each of the four symbol sanctums is surrounded by a formation that isolates divine consciousness. It's to isolate the divine consciousness of non-White Tiger Sanctum's disciples from comprehending the divine abilities of the White Tiger Sanctum. As Duan Lingtian muttered to himself, he extended his divine consciousness. When he approached the central altar of the White Tiger Sanctum, he was blocked and could not advance any further. As expected, there's a formation here. Unless I enter the central altar of the White Tiger Sanctum, my divine consciousness won't be able to penetrate it, let alone comprehend the divine ability of the White Tiger Sanctum recorded in the White Tiger statue. After verifying it, Duan Lingtian withdrew his divine consciousness in time. At the same time, Duan Lingtian saw a White Tiger Sanctum's disciple walking out of the central altar toward him. He immediately stepped forward to block the other party's path and asked politely, "Senior brother, where do the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples live? I have a friend who's also a White Tiger Sanctum's disciple, and I'm looking for him." This White Tiger Sanctum's disciple was wearing a white robe that was similar to the robe Duan Lingtian was wearing. There were also faint gray flames embroidered on it. The only difference between the robe and the robe he was wearing was the pattern of a majestic giant tiger, while the robe he was wearing had a pattern of a giant tortoise. It was the difference between the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples' robe and the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples' robe. The White Tiger Sanctum's disciples live in the southern area of the White Tiger Sanctum's estate. Since you're a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple, you must have come from the Black Turtle Sanctum. You must have passed by there earlier. The White Tiger Sanctum's disciple pointed behind Duan Lingtian and said to Duan Lingtian, "It just so happens that I'm going to my residence. You can come with me." "Thank you, senior brother." Duan Lingtian quickly thanked him. "How should I address you, junior brother?" The White Tiger Sanctum's disciple broke the silence as he asked, "Duan Lingtian." Duan Lingtian replied with a smile. At the same time, he asked politely, "How should I address you, senior brother?" "My name is Lu Mu." As soon as Lu Mu, the White Tiger Sanctum's disciple, finished speaking, he seemed to have recalled something. After exclaiming in surprise, he muttered to himself, "Duan Lingtian, where have I heard this name before?" "Duan Lingtian, Black Turtle Sanctum." Lu Mu suddenly looked at Duan Lingtian and said in shock, "You're that troublesome Duan Lingtian from the Black Turtle Sanctum?" "Troublesome?" Duan Lingtian was stunned. Then, he asked, "Senior brother Lu Mu, did you get the wrong person? How many Duan Lingtian are there in the Black Turtle Sanctum?" Lu Mu asked again. "I've just arrived in the Black Turtle Sanctum not long ago, so I don't know many people in the Black Turtle Sanctum. Therefore, I don't know if there's anyone with the same name as me." Duan Lingtian shook his head and said, "You've just arrived in the Black Turtle Sanctum not long ago? From what I know, that troublesome Duan Lingtian from the Black Turtle Sanctum has also just arrived in the Black Turtle Sanctum not long ago. He's from the latest batch of people who passed the selection and entered the Black Turtle Sanctum." Lu Mu's eyes gleamed as he stared at Duan Lingtian. "The latest batch?" Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. "Senior brother Lu Mu, if that Duan Lingtian you're talking about is from the latest batch of people who passed the selection and entered the Black Turtle Sanctum, I think I must be the troublesome person you're talking about, senior brother Lu Mu." "You're really the troublesome person?" Lu Mu asked in shock. From what I know, you've offended the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder Lian as soon as you arrived in the Black Turtle Sanctum. 10 days ago, you even killed a martial genius with a blue innate spiritual root who was about to become Li An's direct disciple. From what I know, you're only at the early exemplary saint stage when you killed that martial genius whose cultivation base was at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. As Lu Mu spoke, he looked at Duan Lingtian. I was just lucky. Duan Lingtian shook his head humbly. At the same time, he was slightly surprised. He did not expect news of his deeds had already spread to the White Tiger Sanctum. You don't have to be humble. Lu Mu shook his head and continued to say, although your strength is shocking, it's not your strength that I admire the most. It's the fact that you've offended Elder Lian as soon as you arrived in the Black Turtle Sanctum. Put aside the fact that my cultivation base is only at the Mastery Quintessential Saint stage. Even if my cultivation base has broken through to the peak of the Quintessential Saint stage, or even the Saint Celestial stage, I still wouldn't dare to offend Elder Lian from the Black Turtle Sanctum. It's even more impossible for me to kill his prospective direct disciple. For this reason, put everything else aside, I, Lu Mu, admire you for this. When Lu Mu reached the end of his sentence, he gave Duan Lingtian a big thumbs up. Upon hearing Lu Mu's words and seeing his actions, Duan Lingtian was rendered speechless. He was also shocked by Lu Mu's cultivation base. He did not expect to encounter a White Tiger Sanctum's disciple who was at the Mastery Quintessential Saint stage when he was just asking for directions. Senior brother Lu Mu, as far as I know, for Symbol Sanctum's disciples who are at the Mastery Quintessential Saint stage can participate in the Saint Land's assessment to become a Saint Land disciple. Chapter 1941. There were 3 ways for a Zoroastrianism 4 Symbol Sanctum's disciple to enter the Saint Land of Zoroastrianism and become a Saint Land disciple. The first way was to have outstanding innate talent and be recommended by one of the sanctum leaders of the 4 Symbol Sanctums. The second way was to successfully comprehend and master the divine ability of the sanctum that one belonged to. That way, one would be able to enter the Saint Land of Zoroastrianism. The third way was to participate in the Saint Land of Zoroastrianism's assessment. Usually, only 4 Symbol Sanctum's disciples who were at the Mastery Quintessential Saint stage or above would have a chance to pass the assessment and become a Saint Land disciple. Based on Duan Lingtian's knowledge, most of the Zoroastrianism 4 Symbol Sanctum's disciples who were at the Mastery Quintessential Saint stage or above would be able to pass the Saint Land's assessment and become a Saint Land disciple. Those who failed to pass the Saint Land's assessment, they had either just broken through to the Mastery Quintessential Saint stage and had a weak foundation or made a mistake during the assessment. I've also just broken through recently. I'll definitely register for the Saint Land's assessment next time. Entering the Saint Land has always been my dream, Lu Mu said with a yearning expression on his face. Along the way, Lu Mu and Duan Lingtian chatted and laughed. He did not look down on Duan Lingtian just because he was a Mastery Quintessential Saint stage powerhouse. This made Duan Lingtian have a good impression of him. At the very least, senior brother Lu Mu was not a snob. Since Lu Mu's name had spread in the White Tiger Sanctum, the people in the White Tiger Sanctum must have heard about his background as well. They knew Lu Mu only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root and was destined to not have any great achievements in the future. Moreover, it would be difficult for him to break through to the quintessential saint stage. However, even under such circumstances, this senior brother Lu Mu still did not look at him in a biased light. In Lu Mu's opinion, this was rare. The residence of the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples is just ahead. Lu Mu's voice resonated in the air, waking Duan Lingtian, who was standing next to Lu Mu. Duan Lingtian focused his gaze and looked forward. Immediately, a large canyon appeared in front of him. The Grand Canyon occupied a vast area, surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. The mountain peaks were filled with lush trees that grew horizontally, intersecting with each other, blocking out the clouds and the sun. No wonder I didn't notice this place when I passed by earlier. It turns out that it was all blocked by the branches and leaves of the big trees on the mountain peak. Duan Lingtian shook his head. It's indeed easy to overlook the residence of the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples. Lu Mu nodded. Shortly after, Duan Lingtian and Lu Mu entered the vast canyon side by side. Senior brother Lu Mu. Senior brother Lu Mu. Along the way, they saw many White Tiger Sanctum's disciples walking in and out. Most of the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples would greet Lu Mu warmly when they saw her. Lu Mu smiled back at them without putting on airs. When they arrived at the valley, Duan Lingtian could see the residences of the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples. It's exactly the same as the residences of the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples. Duan Lingtian discovered the residences of the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples seemed to be replicas of the residences of the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples. Senior brother Lu Mu, are the residences of the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples also divided into the Primus House, the second house, the third house, and the fourth house? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. Junior brother Lingtian, it's not just the residences of the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples. Even the residences of the Azure Dragon Sanctum's disciples and the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples are the same as the residences of the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples. Lu Mu smiled. Duan Lingtian finally understood. He touched his nose embarrassedly. He knew he had overreacted. Junior brother Lingtian, what's your friend's name? Perhaps I can help. Otherwise, I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to find your friend with the close to 10,000 Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples. Lu Mu suddenly asked. His name is Zhuluchi. Duan Lingtian replied. What's his cultivation base? Lu Mu asked again. A few months ago, he was at the intermediate exemplary saint stage. However, he was on the verge of breaking through at that time. Currently, it's possible that he has already broken through to the mastery exemplary saint stage. Duan Lingtian replied. He did not know if Palace Master Zhu had already broken through or not. With his strength, he should be staying in the third house. There are only 1,000 third houses. Coupled with the fact that not many new disciples are allowed to stay in the third house, it won't be difficult to find him, Lu Mu said. That's right. Junior brother Lingtian, please wait here for a while. I'll help you find your friend in 15 minutes at most. After Lu Mu informed Duan Lingtian, he flew out and arrived at a third house in the distance. After a few moments, Lu Mu knocked on the door, and a tall Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple walked out. This Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple was very respectful when he spoke to Lu Mu. From the beginning until the end, he had been listening to Lu Mu while he kept nodding. With senior brother Lu Mu's strength, he must be staying in the best Primus house. Duan Lingtian did not know when, but his eyes had already landed on the 10 Primus houses at the highest point. Each Primus house was a mansion that occupied a vast area. Moreover, the cultivation environment inside was twice as good as the Secundus house. When my cultivation base has broken through to the peak of the Divine Saint stage, I'll be able to stay in the Primus house where the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples stay. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, a hint of anticipation could be seen in his eyes. Duan Lingtian was still in a daze when a familiar voice rang in his ears. When he regained his senses, he discovered Lu Mu had returned. Moreover, there was another person standing next to him. It was none other than Zhuluchi. Palace Master Zhu. Duan Lingtian greeted Zhuluchi before he looked at Lu Mu. Senior brother Lu Mu. Thank you. You're welcome, junior brother Lingtian. Lu Mu smiled. I'm very happy to have made a friend like you today. Please come and chat with me when you're free in the future. Otherwise, I don't know when I'll see you again after I go to the Saint Land. Of course. Duan Lingtian nodded. Junior brother Lingtian, why don't you and your friend come to my mansion to catch up? Lu Mu pointed at one of the Primus houses as he spoke. Thank you for your kindness, senior brother Lu Mu, but there's no need for that. I'll be leaving after I talk to my friend for a while. I have other things to do. Duan Lingtian declined Lu Mu's kindness. He really did not want to trouble Lu Mu. As the saying went, a debt of gratitude is the hardest to repay. If possible, he really did not want to owe too many favors. All right, both of you have a good chat. Lu Mu did not insist when he heard Duan Lingtian's refusal. After bidding farewell to Duan Lingtian and Zhuluchi, he flew back to his mansion. Duan Lingtian? How did you get to know him? After Lu Mu left, Zhuluchi said in surprise, he's one of the few mastery quintessential saint stage disciples in the White Tiger Sanctum. He's one of the elites among the disciples in the White Tiger Sanctum. I came to look for you to ask for directions. Duan Lingtian replied. You know him to ask for directions? Zhu Luqi was, naturally, rendered speechless by Duan Lingtian's reply. He became friends with an outstanding disciple in the White Tiger Sanctum just because he asked for directions? He really did not know what to say. Is there a reason you're looking for me? Zhu Luqi returned to the main topic after he regained his senses. Yes. Duan Lingtian's expression turned solemn at this moment. At the same time, Zhu Luqi felt an invisible pressure from Duan Lingtian's solemn expression. Then, Duan Lingtian told him about Yang Chong, the fifth elder of the Northern Plethora sect, who had come to look for him and threatened him. The reason I'm here is to teach you a secret tactic. As long as you master this secret tactic, you won't have to worry about Yang Chong and Lian using the soul-searching secret tactic on you. In that case, they won't be able to find out anything about me in such a short time. Duan Lingtian added after he told Zhu Luqi about this. Yang Chong? The powerhouse who's ranked 146th on the Supreme Saint ranking? Zhu Luqi gasped when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. A hint of dread could be seen on his face. At the same time, he also received the message from Duan Lingtian through his divine consciousness. It was about the secret tactic that could resist the soul-searching secret tactic. With this secret tactic, whether it's Yang Chong or Lian, they won't be able to find out anything about you in such a short time. As long as we don't leave the Zoroastrianism, they won't be able to do anything to us. Zhu Luqi said. However, Yang Chong is the fifth elder of the Northern Plethora sect, a first-rate force in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. I'm afraid the Northern Plethora sect's intelligence network will be able to find out about you sooner or later. Zhu Luqi said again. He looked at Duan Lingtian worriedly. I know. I'll definitely grow stronger before he finds out about me. I'll kill him and get rid of this hidden danger. Duan Lingtian nodded. His eyes gleamed coldly as killing intent surged out of his body. I heard you only have a yellow innate spiritual root? Zhu Luqi asked with a wry smile on his face. He had also heard that Duan Lingtian only had a yellow innate spiritual root. Due to this reason, he did not believe Duan Lingtian's words. No matter how inefficient the Northern Plethora sect's intelligence network was, they would definitely be able to find out about Duan Lingtian in 10 years. It would be extremely difficult for Duan Lingtian, who only had a yellow innate spiritual root, to grow strong enough to kill Yang Chong in less than 10 years. As someone who was ranked 146th on the Supreme Saint ranking, Yang Chong was, naturally, not easy to deal with. Palace Master Zhu, all you have to do is to master the secret tactic I've taught you, and keep it circulating at all times. As for the rest, leave it to me. Duan Lingtian did not explain himself in the face of Zhu Luqi's doubt. He confidently said before he bade farewell to Zhu Luqi, Now, it's time for me to go to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum to look for Senior Brother Guli. Palace Master Zhu, be careful. The moment Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he left in a flash, as though he had transformed into a gust of wind. You be careful as well. Chapter 1942. Zhu Luqi had heard that Duan Lingtian had killed a genius martial cultivator at the peak of the exemplary saint stage 10 days ago. However, he did not think Duan Lingtian would be strong enough to kill Yang Chong before Yang Chong found out about his background. He had only learned that everyone had an innate spiritual root after coming to the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. The innate spiritual root represented one's innate talent. The higher one's innate talent, the higher grade one's innate spiritual root would be. Zhu Luqi, on the other hand, only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root. Due to this reason, he knew his future was bleak. Initially, he thought with Duan Lingtian's innate talent, he would at least possess a green innate spiritual root or blue innate spiritual root. However, things were always unexpected. When he received news from the Black Turtle Sanctum, he learned that Duan Lingtian also possessed a yellow innate spiritual root. It would be difficult for someone with a yellow innate spiritual root to break through to the quintessential saint stage, let alone the saint celestial stage. Yang Chong, on the other hand, was ranked 146th on the Supreme Saint ranking. He was at least at the third form of the saint celestial stage, or even the fourth form of the Saint Celestial stage. How could Duan Lingtian, an ordinary martial cultivator with a yellow innate spiritual root, catch up to Yang Chong? I wonder how senior brother Guli is doing now. After parting ways with Zhu Luqi, Duan Lingtian headed north. He bypassed the central altar of the White Tiger Sanctum and headed north to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. When he arrived at the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, he asked for directions and went straight to the residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. It's just as senior brother Lu Mu said. The residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples is the same as the residence of the Black Turtle Sanctum and the White Tiger Sanctum's disciples. Duan Lingtian stood in the air and looked at the residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples from afar. The residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples was also divided into 4 levels. This senior brother, hello? May I ask if you know Guli? Duan Lingtian stopped a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple who was about to leave and asked politely, Guli? I don't know him. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple glanced at Duan Lingtian and left without looking back. It seems that I won't be able to meet someone as good as senior brother Lu Mu everywhere. When Duan Lingtian saw the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple leaving, he shook his head and withdrew his gaze. Excuse me, do you know Guli? Senior sister, do you know Guli? Duan Lingtian stopped the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples as they entered and exited the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples' residences. He had thought about calling out Guli's name and calling out Guli's name. However, this was the residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples after all. If he shouted out loud, he would offend many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. He could just leave, but Guli would have to clean up after him. If he did that, Guli's situation in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum would not be good. Duan Lingtian did not notice that 3 Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were gathered in front of the door of a ding house. They were chatting happily. All of a sudden, one of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples raised his head. Duan Lingtian's figure entered his sight. He felt familiar. Huh, this person seems familiar. He's a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple. Look, is he from the same batch of people as us who entered the 4 symbol sanctums? When the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple reached the end of his sentence, he called out to the other 2 people. The other 2 Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples immediately raised their heads and looked at Duan Lingtian. Isn't this Duan Lingtian? One of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples narrowed his eyes. I remember him. He's the one who killed Yang Wu, the son of the Northern Plethora sect's 5th elder. Because of that, he offended the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame elder, Duan Lingtian. After the other Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple confirmed Duan Lingtian's identity, his eyes gleamed as he flew away. Where did he go? He must have gone to look for Yuan Kuang. Yuan Kuang? I almost forgot. Yuan Kuang's brother has always wanted Duan Lingtian to join our Vermilion Bird Sanctum. For this reason, Duan Lingtian's companion, Guli, suffered a lot. Naturally, Duan Lingtian, who was far away, did not hear the 2 Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples whispering to each other. However, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple who had left soared into the air and arrived at the door of a tertius house. He knocked on the door and opened it. What's the matter? When the door opened, a young man walked out and looked at the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple who was knocking on the door. He frowned and asked impatiently, Senior brother Yuan Kuang, it's Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian is here. When the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple saw the young man who was also wearing the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple uniform, he pointed at Duan Lingtian in the distance and said excitedly, Duan Lingtian? When Yuan Kuang heard this, his eyes lit up immediately. He followed the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple's gaze and looked over. With just a glance, he recognized the person. It's really him. Why did he come to our Vermilion Bird Sanctum? Could it be that Guli, that stubborn person, finally came to his senses and brought him here? It doesn't seem like it. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple at the side shook his head. Senior brother Yuan Kuang, it's not like you don't know how stubborn Guli is. I think even if we kill him, he might not bring Duan Lingtian here. Based on my guess, this Duan Lingtian has most likely delivered himself to us. He seems to be stopping people to ask about something. It seems like he really came here to look for Guli. Moreover, it seems like he doesn't know which tertius house Guli is staying in. As Yuan Kuang muttered to himself, his eyes gleamed coldly. Then, he soared into the air and arrived at the level where the hundreds of tertius houses were located. Soon after, he landed in front of one of the tertius houses. Bang, bang, bang. As soon as Yuan Kuang raised his hand, he knocked on the door rapidly as though he was not worried the person inside would blame him. Creak. After a while, the door opened, revealing a gloomy expression. However, when the person inside saw Yuan Hong standing at the door, the gloomy expression on his face disappeared and was replaced with a doting expression. Xiao Kuang, is there anything you need from me? The person standing behind the door was also a young man. His features were similar to Yuan Hong's. Brother, Duan Lingtian is here. As Yuan Kuang spoke, he gestured at Duan Lingtian, who was standing in the distance. The young man was Yuan Kuang's biological brother, Yuan Hong. When he heard Yuan Kuang's words, his eyes lit up immediately. He immediately followed Yuan Kuang's gaze and looked over. Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple? Xiao Kuang, are you sure he's Duan Lingtian? Brother, don't forget that I was there when he had a death duel with Yang Wu. I'm sure he's Duan Lingtian, Yuan Kuang said confidently. However, I don't think he's here because of that stubborn guy, Guli. He's asking around. I'm sure he's asking about Guli. I don't think he knows which house Guli is staying in. Yuan Kuang added. He actually took the initiative to come here? Good. Very good. Yuan Hong looked at Duan Lingtian with a cold gleam in his eyes. A cruel expression could be seen on his face. Brother, according to the news from the Black Turtle Sanctum, this Duan Lingtian seems to have mastered 2 high-grade divine abilities. He's only at the early exemplary saint stage, but his strength is at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. Moreover, he killed another Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple who was at the peak of the exemplary saint stage 10 days ago. Yuan Kuang said, it's said that the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple is a martial genius who possesses a blue innate spiritual root. He's Elder Lian's direct disciple. If he's still alive, he'll be your junior uncle. It's a good thing that Master doesn't know about this. Otherwise, he'd definitely be furious. Yuan Hong looked at Duan Lingtian in the distance with a grave expression. His eyes gleamed coldly. It's not easy for Grandmaster to find a suitable direct disciple, but he's killed by this Duan Lingtian. It's obvious this Duan Lingtian wants to fight to the death with Grandmaster. Today, I'll properly vent the anger of the Grand Ancestor and properly torture Duan Lingtian. When Yuan Hong reached the end of his sentence, his tone was extremely cold. Brother, his strength is not simple, Yuan Kuang reminded him. So what if he's not simple? He's at the peak of the exemplary saint stage at most. However, I've already broken through to the early quintessential saint stage a year ago. That little bit of strength of his is nothing in front of me, your brother. Yuan Hong said disdainfully while revealing a look of disdain. Yuan Hong was a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple. His cultivation base was at the early quintessential saint stage. Apart from that, he had another identity. He was the direct disciple of the first direct disciple of the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Lian. In terms of seniority, Lian was his grandmaster. Although Lian's first direct disciple possessed a blue innate spiritual root, due to his young age, he was only a bronze flame elder in the saintland of Zoroastrianism. With his innate talent of possessing a blue innate spiritual root, he would definitely become a silver flame elder in the future. It was not impossible for him to become a golden flame elder. Yuan Hong was very clear about his master's future prospects. He knew how lucky he was to be able to become his master's disciple since he possessed a green innate spiritual root. Due to this reason, he had always wanted to perform well in front of his master so his master would value him more. Coincidentally, his younger brother, Yuan Kuang, had also come to the saintland of Zoroastrianism. He had used his master's name to ask one of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's Silver Flame Elders to allow Yuan Kuang to join the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. Because of this, he had learned from Yuan Kuang that a new disciple called Duan Lingtian had offended his grandmaster. At this time, he knew it was time for him to perform. Chapter 1943. At that time, Yuan Hong even wanted to go to the Black Turtle Sanctum to teach Duan Lingtian a lesson to avenge his grandmaster. However, he dismissed this thought as soon as it appeared in his mind. He was a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple. If he went to the Black Turtle Sanctum to teach a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple a lesson, the other Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples would be displeased. At that time, as long as a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple who was stronger than him stepped forward, he would be the one to be taught a lesson. Even if his grandmaster was Li Un, not all the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples would give him face. In the Black Turtle Sanctum, there were a few other martial geniuses who possessed blue innate spiritual roots. They were the direct disciples of the Silver Flame Elders in the Saint Land. All of them were arrogant and did not respect his grandmaster at all. For this reason, Yuan Hong no longer thought of going to the Black Turtle Sanctum to teach Duan Lingtian a lesson. Brother, one of Duan Lingtian's companions came to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum at the same time as me. When he heard Yuan Kuang's words, he seemed to have seen a ray of hope in the darkness. It was also from that time onwards that Kuli's tragic life began. The two brothers, Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang, would look for Guli every few days to teach him a lesson. They did not kill or cripple Guli. Instead, they tortured him step by step. They slowly destroyed Guli's will. They only had one goal in mind. They wanted Guli to trick Duan Lingtian into coming to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. In Yuan Hong's opinion, as long as Duan Lingtian came to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, they could do whatever they wanted to him. Unfortunately, no matter how badly they tortured Guli, Guli still gritted his teeth and endured it. From the beginning until the end, he did not have any intention of betraying Duan Lingtian. This made Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang very gloomy. When they saw Duan Lingtian had taken the initiative to look for them, they were extremely excited. They were like two wild dogs that had seen a delicious bone. They could not wait to pounce on it and bite it. That's the room, right? Thank you, senior brother. After Duan Lingtian asked several dozens of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, he finally found out which house Guli was staying in. He seems to have found out which house Guli is staying in. You go and lure Guli out. I'll go and meet this Duan Lingtian. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to descend to the tea house, Yuan Hong noticed his movement and immediately said to Yuan Kuang, Brother Lingtian, you're going to be in the tea house. Suddenly, Yuan Kuang's figure flashed like a bolt of lightning, heading straight for the T-shaped house where Guli lived. Yuan Kuang's actions naturally attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. He who was about to descend to the ground could not help but pause for a moment. It was this momentary daze that allowed him to react in time and suffer a sneak attack from Yuan Hong. Bang! When Duan Lingtian noticed Yuan Hong's sneak attack, it was already too late for him to dodge. He could only mobilize his Sun Saint energy to cover the surface of his body through his 99 Saint veins and forcefully receive Yuan Hong's palm attack before he was sent flying backward. Since Yuan Hong did not use his full strength and Duan Lingtian had covered his body with his Sun Saint energy in time, he only suffered some minor injuries. However, even though it was only a minor injury, Duan Lingtian's internal organs were shaken, causing him to throw up a mouthful of blood. Who are you? Why did you sneak an attack on me? After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian regained his senses and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He stared coldly at the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple who was standing nearby. It was this Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple who had sneaked an attack on him and injured him. He asked himself if he had ever seen this person before today. Since he had never seen this person before, it was only natural that he did not offend this person. However, why did this person sneak an attack on him? This was something that Duan Lingtian could not figure out. It's senior brother Yuan Hong. Why did senior brother Yuan Hong attack this Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple? Could it be that this Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple has offended senior brother Yuan Hong? When Yuan Hong sneaked an attack on Duan Lingtian, it had attracted the attention of many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. Soon after, more and more Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples walked out of their residences to join in the fun. Yuan Hong? When Duan Lingtian heard the whispers among the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, the frown on his face deepened. Not only had he never seen this person before, but he had never even heard of this person's name. Junior brother Lingtian. All of a sudden, a familiar voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. A surprised expression appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. Senior brother Guli? However, when he turned to look at the source of the voice, his expression turned grave immediately. Not far away, he saw the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple who had charged toward Guli's residence earlier. He was carrying Guli with one hand, as though he was carrying some kind of cargo. Guli's cheeks were red and swollen. His face was stained with blood. With just a glance, it was obvious he had just been beaten up. Leave now. Yuan Hong wants to deal with you. He's Lian's grand disciple. He's an early quintessential saint stage martial cultivator. Gu Li's face was red and swollen as he roared at Duan Lingtian. He wanted Duan Lingtian to leave. If he did not hear Duan Lingtian's voice and was afraid Duan Lingtian would be at a disadvantage, he would not have been tricked by Yuan Kuang to come out. After being beaten up so many times in the past, he knew how to protect himself. Lian's grand disciple? At this moment, all the doubts in Duan Lingtian's heart disappeared. Since Yuan Hong was Lian's grand disciple, everything made sense now. Slap. At this moment, the crisp sound of a slap resonated in the air. It was Yuan Kuang who was carrying Guli with one hand. He raised his hand and slapped Guli. Then, he scolded coldly, "Trash, did I ask you to talk too much? You're seeking death." Upon seeing this, horror dawned on Duan Lingtian. He instantly mobilized his Sun Saint energy and cast the Golden Crow's wings. In just a flash, he charged toward Guli and Yuan Kuang. Its speed was so fast that it was like a bolt of lightning. "I think you're the one who's seeking death." At the same time, Yuan Hong made his move as well. He charged toward Duan Lingtian. Yuan Hong's speed and strength that belonged to an early quintessential saint stage martial cultivator were completely unleashed at this moment. Moreover, he managed to block Duan Lingtian in time. At this moment, Duan Lingtian did not cast his divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. Due to this reason, his speed was not as fast as Yuan Hong, who was an early quintessential saint stage martial cultivator. "Duan Lingtian, if you want to save Guli, you'll have to get past my brother first." Upon seeing this, Yuan Kuang laughed heartily. His laughter was filled with disdain. Slap, slap, slap. Then, he slapped Guli a few more times in front of Duan Lingtian, causing Guli's face to swell. Guli's eyes were wide open as he tried to resist with all his might. However, he was not only a divine saint stage martial cultivator. His saint energy had just been brewing in his body, but before he could release it, it was destroyed by Yuan Kuang's saint energy. Yuan Kuang was an exemplary saint stage martial cultivator. His strength completely suppressed Guli. At this moment, Guli was so angry that he almost crushed his teeth from clenching them. At this moment, he hated himself for being too weak. Not only was he unable to help Duan Lingtian, but he was also a burden to Duan Lingtian. This time, Duan Lingtian did not say anything. However, he looked at Yuan Kuang as though he was looking at a dead man. "All of you forced me to do this." After a few moments, Duan Lingtian's throat moved. When he spoke again, his voice was extremely hoarse. His hoarse voice was so cold that it sent chills down the spines of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. At the same time, terrifying killing intent rose from Duan Lingtian's body as though it was endless. Duan Lingtian? He's Duan Lingtian? The Duan Lingtian from the Black Turtle Sanctum? He's wearing the uniform of a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple. It must be him. I heard that Duan Lingtian killed a martial Dao genius at the peak of the exemplary saint stage in the Black Turtle Sanctum 10 days ago. Since his opponent made the first move, he's not guilty. It's said that although his strength has yet to reach the quintessential saint stage, he can be considered as one of the best powerhouses at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. After confirming that the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple before them was indeed Duan Lingtian, a commotion broke out immediately. All of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples stared at Duan Lingtian with a burning gaze. It was as though they were hunters who had spotted their prey. Currently, not only was Duan Lingtian a celebrity in the Black Turtle Sanctum, but he was also a celebrity in the entire four symbol sanctums. For this reason, when they found out the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple before them was Duan Lingtian, they were all extremely excited. Not only were the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples looking at him with interest, but some of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who did not come out earlier also came out of their residences and joined in the crowd to watch Duan Lingtian. It was as though Duan Lingtian had some sort of charm that attracted them. I've long heard that Elder Lian is senior brother Yuan Hong's grandmaster. Judging from senior brother Yuan Hong's actions, it seems like he's going to teach Duan Lingtian a lesson for his grandmaster. Senior brother Yuan Hong is an early quintessential saint stage powerhouse. Although Duan Lingtian is quite strong, he can only be considered as one of the best powerhouses at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. I'm afraid he's going to be in trouble today. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene felt Duan Lingtian was going to be in trouble. The news of Duan Lingtian defeating the Black Turtle Sanctum's early quintessential saint stage disciple, Zhang Ji, had not spread to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. Otherwise, they would not have thought so. In terms of strength, Zhang Ji was already half a step away from entering the intermediate quintessential saint stage. Moreover, he had even mastered a high-grade offensive divine ability. He was not someone Yuan Hong, who had just broken through to the early quintessential saint stage, could compare to. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were not the only ones who were unaware that Duan Lingtian had defeated Zhang Ji. Even Yuan Hong was unaware of this. Otherwise, he would not have dared to offend Duan Lingtian no matter how bold he was. "We forced you to do this?" Due to his ignorance, Yuan Hong had a disdainful and mocking smile on his face when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. "So what if we forced you to do this? Don't tell me you're going to rebel against us? Today, not only are we going to torture Gu Li, but we're going to torture you as well. You can only blame yourself for being blind and offending my Grand Master." The moment Yuan Hong's words left his mouth, he made his move again and charged toward Duan Lingtian. "All of you deserve to die." Chapter 1944. Boom. After a few moments, the Sun Saint energy in Duan Lingtian's body skyrocketed as the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings surged into his body. In just a blink of an eye, the Sun Saint energy had become so strong that it was comparable to the Saint energy at the peak of the exemplary Saint stage. This morning, Duan Lingtian had used this Sun Saint energy to fight with Zhang Ji, an early quintessential saint stage disciple from the Black Turtle Sanctum. If Zhang Ji did not master a high-grade offensive divine ability, with his strength, he was confident he could defeat Zhang Ji. He would not have ended up in such a wretched state after defeating Zhang Ji. It was fortunate that Duan Lingtian had entered the 4th level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to recuperate. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for his spiritual energy and Sun Saint energy to recover to this extent. Although he had not fully recovered, it was more than enough to deal with Yuan Hong. Yuan Hong was only an ordinary early quintessential saint stage martial cultivator. If Zhang Ji wanted to kill him, it would not take more than 10 moves. Duan Lingtian's strength was not inferior to Zhang Ji. Naturally, he would not need more than 10 moves to kill Yuan Hong. Good. Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold as he faced Yuan Hong, who was charging at him menacingly. The golden crow's wings on his back flapped, causing his speed to rise to its peak. He was even faster than Yuan Hong. What a fast speed! The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were shocked when they saw Duan Lingtian's speed. As bystanders, they saw Duan Lingtian and Yuan Hong charging at each other. However, they saw Duan Lingtian's speed was slightly faster than Yuan Hong's. This scene naturally shocked them as well. According to the news they had obtained, the fastest speed Duan Lingtian displayed when he killed Gu Long, a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple at the peak of the exemplary saint stage, was only comparable to an early quintessential saint stage martial cultivator. Duan Lingtian's current speed is comparable to an intermediate quintessential saint stage martial cultivator. Many of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were at the quintessential saint stage, so it was easy for them to see this. Duan Lingtian's speed is comparable to an intermediate quintessential saint stage martial cultivator. The other Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples narrowed their eyes when they heard this. Then, a look of disbelief appeared on their faces. It's only been 10 days. His speed actually increased so much? Heavens! Who can tell me what is going on? Could it be that he was still hiding his strength 10 days ago? It's possible. According to the news from the Black Turtle Sanctum, although Duan Lingtian's strength was almost at the early quintessential saint stage, he was still far from being able to threaten a quintessential saint stage powerhouse. Therefore, when he fought with that Gulong 10 days ago, it's very likely that he really did hide his strength. Actually, other than hiding his strength, there's another possibility. He must have made a breakthrough in the past 10 days and has broken through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage. While they were shocked by Duan Lingtian's speed, the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples discussed among themselves. They kept talking about how Duan Lingtian had killed Gulong, the martial cultivator at the peak of the exemplary saint stage, in the Black Turtle Sanctum 10 days ago. That battle had shown Duan Lingtian's strength to everyone. However, Duan Lingtian's strength from 10 days ago was nothing compared to the strength he had displayed now. They were not on the same level at all. How's this possible? At the same time, Yuan Kuang, who was holding Guli in one hand, had a horrified expression on his face when he saw Duan Lingtian's speed was even faster than his brother's. Ha! Ha ha! Junior brother Lingtian. Good job. Guli also noticed this and laughed out loud. His laughter was filled with joy and joy. What are you laughing at? Upon hearing Guli's laughter, horror dawned on Yuan Kuang's face. He slapped Guli again, causing half of Guli's face to swell up even more. Hit me then. You won't be so smug for long. Unless you kill me, don't think you'll have an easy time. Guli, who was slapped again, threw up a mouthful of blood. He had a wicked smile on his face as he snarled. At this moment, all the gloominess in his heart was gone. All he felt was elation. Yuan Kuang was so angry that he slapped Guli a few more times. Although he was furious, he did not dare to really cripple or kill Guli. Let alone Yuan Kuang, even his brother, Yuan Hong, did not dare to kill Duan Lingtian even though he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian to avenge his grand ancestor. This was because he was afraid of the Zoroastrianism's rule. Yuan Hong merely possessed a green innate spiritual root. If he violated the Zoroastrianism's rule of killing a fellow disciple, he would definitely be killed. At that time, even his master would not be able to save him. Although his master possessed a blue innate spiritual root, his master was his master, and he was his master. The two of them could not be confused. Unless his master possessed an indigo innate spiritual root, perhaps he would be able to plead on his master's behalf. How's his speed so fast? When the onlookers discovered Duan Lingtian's speed was even faster than Yuan Hong had also discovered this. Horror dawned on him immediately. Don't tell me he has broken through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage? This thought appeared in Yuan Hong's mind at this moment. When Duan Lingtian killed Gulong, the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple at the peak of the exemplary saint stage, 10 days ago, his cultivation base was only at the early exemplary saint stage. Due to this reason, when he saw Duan Lingtian's speed, he was certain Duan Lingtian had broken through to the intermediate exemplary saint stage in these 10 days. It seems like he has indeed broken through. The strength and aura in his body is comparable to the saint energy at the peak of the exemplary saint stage. This must be the benefit of the assist-type divine ability he mastered that's suspected to be a high-grade divine ability. At this moment, Yuan Hong thought of many things. An expression of jealousy appeared on his face when he thought of this. In Yuan Hong's opinion, Duan Lingtian was only an exemplary saint stage martial cultivator. A mere exemplary saint stage martial cultivator had already mastered 2 high-grade divine abilities. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to Yuan Hong, who had yet to master a single high-grade divine ability up until now. For this reason, Yuan Hong was extremely jealous of Duan Lingtian. He even hated Duan Lingtian to the core. Although Duan Lingtian's speed was extremely fast, Yuan Hong was not discouraged at all. The reason he's so fast is because of that high-grade movement divine ability. If it's not for that high-grade movement divine ability, his speed would be far inferior to mine. Unless he's mastered a high-grade offensive divine ability as well. Otherwise, even if his strength is temporarily boosted by his assist-type divine ability and is comparable to the saint energy at the peak of the exemplary saint stage, it's still impossible for him to be a match for me. The moment Yuan Hong thought of this, he was filled with confidence. His speed might be faster than mine now, but it's still boosted by his assist-type divine ability. He'll only be able to last for a while before his strength returns to its original state. At the same time, his speed will return to its original state as well. Yuan Hong's eyes gleamed coldly as he charged toward Duan Ling Tian without slowing down at all. He did not even stop for a moment. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Yuan Hong swung his fist out as fast as he could. It seemed like a simple punch, but it contained an extraordinary aura. It contained the profundity of a martial tactic. When the punch was swung out, it carried the force of wind and thunder. It was as though it was earth-shattering as a vast energy swept toward Duan Ling Tian. Looking at the power of this punch, even if it was a towering mountain, it would most likely be blown apart by it. Faced with Yuan Hong's earth-shattering punch, Duan Ling Tian's eyes turned even colder. Whoosh! With a raise of his hand, the 100 inscriptions saint sword that he had obtained from Zhao Wu previously appeared in his hand. He swung the sword that contained the profundity of the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. The profundity of the Sovereign Heart Sword gave Duan Ling Tian's sword a force that was not inferior to an ordinary heaven-rank saint-grade martial tactics force. Finally, under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Ling Tian's 100 inscriptions saint sword collided with Yuan Hong's fist. To be more precise, the vast energy surging from both of them collided with each other. In this collision, Duan Ling Tian had used his 100 inscriptions saint weapon while Yuan Hong did not use his saint weapon. In other words, Duan Ling Tian had the upper hand. Boom! Along with a loud explosion, a vast and rolling energy swept out from the point where the sword and fist collided. A gust of violent wind swept out, causing the robes of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples to flutter loudly. Many of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples with a weaker cultivation base could not help but squint their eyes when they were blown by the violent wind. After a while, under the watchful eyes of the others, Yuan Hong stood there motionlessly, allowing the violent wind to wreak havoc on him. On the other hand, Duan Ling Tian was sent flying. His face had turned pale in just a blink of an eye. Whoosh! Upon seeing this, an uproar broke out in the crowd again. Initially, I thought Duan Ling Tian's speed and strength are faster than senior brother Yuan Hong. I didn't expect him to be at a disadvantage, even though he's using his 100 inscriptions saint sword, while senior brother Yuan Hong is empty-handed in this head-on collision. Yuan Hong is an early quintessential saint stage powerhouse after all. On the other hand, although Duan Ling Tian's speed is faster than Yuan Hong, that's because he has cast his high-grade movement divine ability. Based on the aura he's emitting, it's only comparable to the saint energy at the peak of the exemplary saint stage at most. His strength is boosted by the assist-type divine ability that he cast. Once the effect of the assist-type divine ability wears off, he'll definitely revert to his original state. Once he reverts to his original state, he won't be able to defeat Yuan Hong anymore. Unless he has mastered a high-grade offensive divine ability, it's impossible for him to be a match for senior brother Yuan Hong. When the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples saw Duan Ling Tian was at a disadvantage, they began to discuss among themselves again. Based on their words, most of them were not optimistic about Duan Ling Tian's chances. Perhaps he has mastered a high-grade offensive divine ability, but he hasn't cast it yet? There was one as well. Chapter 1945. Impossible. When a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple heard someone saying that Duan Ling Tian might have mastered a high-grade offensive divine ability, he immediately refuted. Duan Ling Tian's movement divine ability is definitely a high-grade divine ability. His assist-type divine ability that can raise his strength to such a level is most likely a high-grade divine ability as well. He's already considered lucky to have mastered 2 high-grade divine abilities. It's very rare, but all of you are saying he might have mastered a 3rd high-grade divine ability? All of you must be thinking too much. Do you really think high-grade divine abilities are like cabbages in the market that you can get as many as you want? When the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple reached the end of his sentence, his tone became a little heated. As soon as the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple finished speaking, many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples agreed with him. That's right. It's impossible for Duan Lingtian to have mastered a third high-grade divine ability. It's not easy to master a high-grade divine ability. Let's not talk about the others. Just look at senior brother Yuan Hong. His cultivation base has already broken through to the early quintessential saint stage, but he still hasn't mastered a single high-grade divine ability. It seems like Duan Lingtian is going to lose. If he loses, he'll be in big trouble. Perhaps senior brother Yuan Hong won't cripple or kill him because of the sect's rules. However, he'll definitely torture him until he'll wish he was dead. It seems like senior brother Yuan Hong intends to avenge his grandmaster and gain his master's favor. Poor Duan Lingtian. He's going to become Yuan Hong's tool to gain his master's favor. Based on the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples' words, it was obvious they felt Duan Lingtian was going to be defeated by Yuan Hong. Moreover, he would be humiliated and tortured by Yuan Hong. He would wish he was dead. The small group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who felt Duan Lingtian might have mastered a high-grade offensive divine ability changed their stance when they heard the other disciples' words. However, there was still a small group of people who insisted on what they thought. Naturally, they could only think about it in their hearts. If he said it out loud, he would definitely be attacked by the other Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. Seeing that Yuan Hong had sent Duan Lingtian flying with a single punch, Yuan Kuang was relieved. However, he did not forget to look at Guli, who was still in his hands. With a look of disdain, he said, "Guli, did you see that? So what if this Duan Lingtian is faster than my brother? Even if he has 100 inscriptions saint weapon, he's still no match for my brother in a head-on battle." Guli's expression was grave. He looked at Duan Lingtian from afar with worry in his eyes. "Junior brother Lingtian, use your high-grade movement divine ability to leave the Vermilion Bird Sanctum before the effect of your assist-type divine ability wears off. Don't come back. At the very least, don't come to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum again until you're stronger than Yuan Hong." At the same time, Guli hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian, urging him to hurry. However, there was no response to his voice transmission. It was as though Duan Lingtian did not hear him at all. Guli immediately continued to send another voice transmission. However, he did not receive any response at all. What's junior brother Lingtian doing? Guli was so anxious that he almost broke his teeth from clenching them. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian suddenly flapped his golden crow's wings, causing the surrounding air to be sucked away. Boom, 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 boom. When the air was sucked away again, a series of thunderous explosions resonated in the air. Whoosh! At the same time, under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian seemed to have transformed into a sharp arrow as he shot up into the sky and disappeared into the horizon in just a blink of an eye. Upon seeing this, Guli sighed in relief. He thought Duan Lingtian had listened to him and was preparing to leave the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. Trying to run away? Yuan Hong smiled coldly and soared into the sky as well. He chased after Duan Lingtian and disappeared into the horizon as well, disappearing before everyone's eyes. Let's go up and have a look." At the same time, the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples also prepared to fly up into the sky to watch the show. However, as soon as they made their move, they stopped moving before they could fly up into the sky. All of them were dumbfounded as they stared at the sky. To be more precise, they were staring at the clouds in the sky. Behind the clouds, Duan Lingtian, whom they thought had escaped, appeared. Moreover, that was not all. Apart from that, Duan Lingtian was carrying a person in his hand. Upon closer inspection, was that not Yuan Hong? At this moment, Yuan Hong, who had 3 bloody holes on his body, was still bleeding profusely, had fainted again. He was being carried by Duan Lingtian as though he was an item. It was obvious that Yuan Hong had merely fainted because he was still breathing. Amidst the dead silence, Yuan Hong's heavy breathing was exceptionally loud. The scene of Duan Lingtian carrying Yuan Hong as though he was an item was extremely familiar to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. At the same time, many of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples instinctively looked at Yuan Kuang, who was standing nearby, and Guli, who was being carried by Yuan Kuang. No matter how they looked at it, they felt Duan Lingtian was imitating Yuan Hong. How's this possible? However, most of them were still shocked by Duan Lingtian's strength. Based on the current situation, it seemed like Duan Lingtian's strength was even higher than Yuan Hong's. Otherwise, how could Yuan Hong be defeated by him? Brother! Yuan Kuang, who was being carried by Duan Lingtian like an item, cried out in disbelief when he saw Yuan Hong had fainted. A hint of fear could be seen in his eyes when he looked at Duan Lingtian again. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would be so powerful to be able to subdue his brother, Yuan Hong. Don't tell me he has mastered another high-grade offensive divine ability? The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples whispered among themselves as they confirmed another matter. Duan Lingtian had indeed mastered a high-grade offensive divine ability. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Duan Lingtian to subdue Yuan Hong. What a freak! He has actually mastered 3 high-grade divine abilities. In fact, he's only an exemplary saint stage martial cultivator. If he possesses a green innate spiritual root instead of a yellow innate spiritual root, his future would be limitless. What a pity! It's indeed a pity. A person with a yellow innate spiritual root would most likely not be able to enter the quintessential saint stage. Even if he's lucky enough to enter the quintessential saint stage, he'll never be able to break through to the saint celestial stage. On the other hand, a person with a green innate spiritual root would definitely be able to enter the saint celestial stage and become a true powerhouse in Zoroastrianism. If Duan Lingtian's cultivation base can break through to the saint celestial stage, ordinary saint celestial stage powerhouses would not be a match for him with the 3 divine abilities he has mastered. What a pity! He's just a mediocre person with a yellow innate spiritual root. When the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene mentioned Duan Lingtian's yellow innate spiritual root, they shook their heads and felt it was a pity. A person who had mastered 3 high-grade divine abilities only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root. Anyone would feel pity for such a person. Let go. As Duan Lingtian descended from the sky while carrying the unconscious Yuan Hong, he glared at Yuan Kuang coldly and shouted. As soon as he shouted, Duan Lingtian's left eye, the strange pupil, flashed as a dragon-shaped soul attack shot out. It entered Yuan Kuang's body and slammed into his soul, causing his soul to tremble. As his soul trembled, Yuan Kuang instinctively let go of Gu Li's hand. As soon as Yuan Kuang let go of his hand, Gu Li regained his freedom. Nobody was restricting the saint energy in his body anymore. Junior brother Lingtian. After regaining his freedom, Gu Li did not lose his mind due to the pleasant surprise. He immediately flew out and only heaved a sigh of relief when he appeared next to Duan Lingtian. He knew he was out of danger. Duan Lingtian's true cultivation base was only at the intermediate divine saint stage. Due to this reason, the soul attack he cast with his current soul was not enough to destroy Yuan Kuang's soul. Yuan Kuang was a bona fide exemplary saint stage martial cultivator. His soul was much more powerful than Duan Lingtian's. Naturally, Duan Lingtian did not intend to kill Yuan Kuang when he cast his soul attack. He only wanted to distract Yuan Kuang so he could free Gu Li. Although Duan Lingtian knew Yuan Kuang did not dare to kill Gu Li, he did not want to see Gu Li being controlled by Yuan Kuang. It would be extremely passive to him, and he did not like being passive. After a while, Yuan Kuang regained his senses. When he regained his senses, he realized Gu Li had disappeared from his hand. Horror dawned on him immediately. After taking a deep breath, Yuan Kuang looked at Duan Lingtian and said coldly, "Duan Lingtian, let go of my brother." "Let go of your brother? Why should I let him go?" Duan Lingtian smiled nonchalantly. However, his smile was evil no matter how one looked at it. It caused chills to run up Yuan Kuang's spine. "What can you do if I don't let you go? Don't tell me you dare to kill my brother?" Yuan Kuang said in a deep voice. "You're right. I want to kill your brother." Duan Lingtian sneered. "You won't be able to live if you kill my brother." Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Yuan Kuang's eyes widened as he said coldly, "Don't forget the rules of Zoroastrianism." Crack. As soon as the words rules left Yuan Kuang's mouth, a crisp sound resonated in the air. It was Duan Lingtian who had broken Yuan Hong's neck with a raise of his hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as Duan Lingtian broke Yuan Hong's neck, he did not forget to slash his sword twice. The first slash destroyed Yuan Hong's soul. The second slash pierced Yuan Hong's heart. At this moment, even if a deity descended from the heavens, he would not be able to save Yuan Hong since he was already dead. The moment Yuan Hong was killed, the scene fell into a dead silence. The group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who were present on the scene were dumbfounded. They did not expect Duan Lingtian would dare to disregard the rules of Zoroastrianism and kill someone. After a while, Yuan Kuang, who was pale with shock and disbelief, was the first to regain his senses. He looked at Duan Lingtian as though he had just seen a ghost. His voice trembled as he said, You actually dared to kill my brother? You're dead. You're dead. When Yuan Kuang reached the end of his sentence, he shouted angrily. Chapter 1946. Not only do I dare to kill your brother, but I dare to kill you as well. After killing Yuan Hong, Duan Lingtian looked at Yuan Kuang with killing intent in his eyes. It sent chills down Yuan Kuang's spine. At that moment, Yuan Kuang realized that his body had stiffened involuntarily from fear. When he saw Duan Lingtian raising his hand and tossing his brother's body to him, Yuan Kuang, who was distracted, finally suppressed the fear in his heart and quickly caught Yuan Hong's body. Let's go. As soon as Yuan Kuang caught Yuan Hong's body, he recalled Duan Lingtian's words and no longer dared to say anything. He thought to himself as he hastily prepared to leave with his brother's body. Whoosh! However, just as Yuan Kuang was about to leave with Yuan Hong's body, the area within a 100-meter radius of Duan Lingtian was covered by a layer of golden light in just a blink of an eye. It blocked the sight of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. At this moment, due to the existence of Duan Lingtian's 10,000 Swords territory, Yuan Kuang was also covered by the golden light. He disappeared before the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples' eyes, causing them to be unable to see what was going on inside. Earlier, Duan Lingtian said, he wants to kill Yuan Kuang? Not only did he kill Yuan Hong, but he also wants to kill Yuan Kuang? It seems like Duan Lingtian has nothing left to lose. He knows he'll be sentenced to death for killing Yuan Hong, so he doesn't care about killing Yuan Kuang. The Yuan brothers deserve this for offending such a ruthless person who doesn't care about his life. Duan Lingtian is too ruthless. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene whispered among themselves. When they mentioned Duan Lingtian, a hint of dread could be heard in their voices. Duan Lingtian was a ruthless person. This was what they all agreed on. Senior brother Guli, I'll send you out first. After condensing the 10,000 Swords territory, before Duan Lingtian could kill Yuan Kuang, he looked at Guli, who was standing next to him, and said to Guli. After informing Guli, Duan Lingtian immediately activated the vast Sun Saint energy in his body. Before Guli could react, he sent Duan Lingtian out of the 100-meter radius of the 10,000 Swords domain. In the next instant, Guli's figure appeared in front of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, attracting their attention. It's him. Duan Lingtian seems to be standing up for him. What is his relationship with Duan Lingtian? The group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who could not see the situation inside the 10,000 Swords territory shifted their attention to Guli, causing him to become the focus of everyone's attention since he was easily injured. Based on the way Duan Lingtian addressed him, it seems like he called him senior brother. I remember him. At that time, I was in the same batch as Duan Lingtian to join Zoroastrianism. However, he went to the Black Turtle Sanctum, and I went to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. At that time, I remember he was with Guli. Then, does this mean Guli has a close relationship with Duan Lingtian before he joined Zoroastrianism? Isn't it obvious? Didn't you hear Guli address Duan Lingtian as junior brother? Before they joined Zoroastrianism, it's very likely that they were brothers from the same sect. If that's the case, it's no wonder Duan Lingtian was so angry that he even killed Yuan Hong. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples whispered among themselves again. Based on their words, they did not agree with Duan Lingtian's impulsive act of killing Yuan Hong. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian's actions were akin to seeking death. Since he had violated the Zoroastrianism's rule and killed his fellow disciple, it was very likely that he would pay with his life. Junior brother Lingtian. However, Guli, who was sent out, did not pay attention to the people around him. When he regained his senses, horror dawned on him. Based on what Duan Lingtian had said to Yuan Kuang, naturally, he could guess the reason why Duan Lingtian had sent him out was because he did not want to be a burden to him. If he was also in Duan Lingtian's territory when Yuan Kuang died, he would undoubtedly become a suspect. He would not be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. In the 10,000 Swords territory, Duan Lingtian walked toward Yuan Kuang in the air. Bang, bang, bang. With every step, Yuan Kuang felt as though a huge rock had smashed into his chest. His expression changed drastically, and his breathing involuntarily quickened. His heartbeat continued to accelerate. What are you trying to do? Faced with Duan Lingtian, who was walking toward him in the air, Yuan Kuang held Yuan Hong's body and retreated. Fear was written all over his face. What can I do? Of course, I'm going to kill you, Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly, as though he was talking about something insignificant. No, you can't do that. If you kill me, you'll be violating the sect's rules. Zoroastrianism will never let you go, Yuan Kuang said to Duan Lingtian in a trembling voice. Fear was written all over his face as he narrowed his eyes. Don't tell me that I'm not violating the Zoroastrianism's rules if I kill your brother? Upon hearing Yuan Kuang's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but sneer before he said disdainfully, to Zoroastrianism, there's no difference between killing Yuan Hong and killing both of you. Swoosh. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, horror dawned on Yuan Kuang's face. He knew he was in big trouble. At this moment of life and death, Yuan Kuang's expression changed rapidly. In the end, he kneeled in the air and kowtowed to Duan Lingtian. Duan, Senior Brother Lingtian. Senior Brother Lingtian, please let me go. I'm willing to apologize to Senior Brother Gu Li. As long as you don't kill me, Senior Brother Gu Li can take revenge on me however he wants. I haven't lived long enough, and I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. Senior Brother Lingtian, as long as you're willing to let me go, I'm willing to testify that it was my brother, Yuan Hong, who wanted to kill you. You killed him out of self-defense. He deserves to die. As long as I testify for you, you won't be violating the Zoroastrianism's rules. In order to survive, Yuan Kuang did not hesitate to betray his own brother. Although Yuan Hong wanted to kill Duan Lingtian, he was afraid of the Zoroastrianism's rules. Therefore, he had never thought of killing Duan Lingtian. He only wanted to torture Duan Lingtian until he wished he was dead. A hint of disgust flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes when he heard Yuan Kuang's words. Although Yuan Hong did not hold back when he attacked Duan Lingtian, there was not much killing intent. It was obvious he did not intend to kill Duan Lingtian. Naturally, Duan Lingtian knew Yuan Hong did not intend to kill Duan Lingtian not because he was merciful, but because he was afraid of violating the Zoroastrianism's rules. After all, the Zoroastrianism's rules forbade the killing of fellow disciples. However, even though Yuan Hong was afraid of the Zoroastrianism's rules, it did not mean Duan Lingtian was afraid of it as well. When Duan Lingtian saw Yuan Kuang humiliating Gu Li, he had already sentenced the Yuan brothers to death in his heart. Now that Yuan Hong was dead, Yuan Kuang was the only one left. You'll have to bear the consequences of your actions. There's no exception. When Duan Lingtian saw how Yuan Kuang was willing to betray his own brother in order to survive, he no longer bothered to waste his breath on him. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately killed Yuan Kuang before Yuan Kuang could even react. It was a simple, direct, and violent move. Even Yuan Hong, who was at the early quintessential saint stage, was killed by Duan Lingtian. Naturally, Yuan Kuang, who was only at the intermediate exemplary saint stage, was powerless in front of Duan Lingtian. Hualao. After killing the Yuan brothers, Duan Lingtian immediately contacted Hualao. He wanted Hualao to guide his divine consciousness to the depths of the Yuan brothers' souls so that he could locate their innate spiritual roots. He wanted to devour the Yuan brothers' innate spiritual roots. Currently, he was eager to improve his innate spiritual root. The Yuan brothers could only blame themselves for being unlucky when they came to him. Naturally, Duan Lingtian had made up his mind to kill the Yuan brothers not because he was interested in their innate spiritual roots, but because he wanted to avenge Gu Li. As for the idea of devouring the Yuan brothers' innate spiritual roots, it only came to him when he was fighting with Yuan Hong. Due to this reason, he did not hesitate to take the risk of violating the Zoroastrianism's rule and killed Yuan Hong in front of everyone. After killing Yuan Hong, he killed Yuan Kuang as well. His innate spiritual root is dark green. Hua Lao guided Duan Lingtian's divine consciousness into Yuan Hong's soul. As soon as it entered Yuan Hong's soul, it told Duan Lingtian about the grade of Yuan Hong's innate spiritual root. A dark green innate spiritual root was the best green innate spiritual root. It's the same as my innate spiritual root? Upon hearing Hua Lao's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel excited. If Yuan Hong's innate spiritual root was too bad, he was not sure if his innate spiritual root would be able to improve to a blue innate spiritual root after devouring Yuan Hong's innate spiritual root. Now that he heard Hua Lao's words, he was filled with confidence. There's also Yuan Kuang's innate spiritual root. Apart from that, Duan Lingtian was not only going to devour Yuan Hong's innate spiritual root, but he was also going to devour Yuan Kuang's innate spiritual root. After devouring Yuan Hong's innate spiritual root, Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root underwent a huge transformation as well. Your innate spiritual root has turned light green. Congratulations, your innate spiritual root is now a blue innate spiritual root. Hua Lao's voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian was overjoyed. Blue innate spiritual root. His innate spiritual root had undergone another transformation. It was no longer a green innate spiritual root. Now, my speed of sensing and absorbing the heaven and earth spirit energy is more than twice as fast as before. As Duan Lingtian tried to sense and absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy, he could clearly feel the improvement in his innate talent. This was a substantial improvement. It was clear and real. This improvement gave Duan Lingtian a sense of satisfaction. Chapter 1947. After devouring Yuan Hong's innate spiritual root, Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root had transformed into a blue innate spiritual root. However, there were no obvious changes to his innate spiritual root after he devoured Yuan Kuang's innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian was not surprised by this. Although Yuan Kuang's innate spiritual root was also a green innate spiritual root, it was nothing compared to his blue innate spiritual root. There was no doubt it would be a long road ahead for his blue innate spiritual root to transform. Devouring a green innate spiritual root was just a drop in the bucket. Whoosh! With just a thought, Duan Lingtian withdrew his 10,000 swords territory and appeared in front of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. However, as soon as Duan Lingtian withdrew his territory, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples did not pay any attention to him. Instead, their attention was on the two corpses that were falling from the sky. Bang! Bang! The two corpses fell to the ground with a loud thud. In the next instant, the entire place fell silent. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were shocked. Duan Lingtian told Guli through voice transmission that Yang Chong, the fifth elder of the Northern Plethora sect, had come looking for trouble with him. He also told him the purpose of his visit and taught him the secret method that could resist the soul-searching secret tactic to Gu Li, junior brother Ling Tian. You'd better run now. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape when the enforcement elders from our Vermilion Bird Sanctum arrive. Gu Li urged Duan Lingtian through voice transmission. His voice was filled with anxiety. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian had challenged the authority of Zoroastrianism by killing Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang. How could the Zoroastrianism let Duan Lingtian go? Don't worry, senior brother Gu Li. I have a way to deal with this matter. In the face of Gu Li's urging, Duan Lingtian's expression did not change. Instead, he responded to Gu Li with a confident smile. This caused Gu Li to be stunned again. Where did his junior brother Ling Tian get his confidence from? Killing fellow disciples in Zoroastrianism was no small matter. At the same time, the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples regained their senses. When they looked at Duan Lingtian again, a hint of dread could be seen in their eyes. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's ruthlessness was engraved in their hearts. This Duan Lingtian is really capable of doing anything. Even Yuan Kuang was killed by him. Ruthless. Too ruthless. I can't believe such a ruthless person would appear in the Black Turtle Sanctum. As far as I know, he was already a ruthless person before he entered the Black Turtle Sanctum. Otherwise, he wouldn't have offended the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Li-Un, by killing Yang Wu, the son of the Northern Plethora sect's fifth elder. However, no matter how ruthless he is, he's going to die today. Killing fellow disciples is not a small matter. He'll have to pay with his life. Many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples whispered among themselves. All of them agreed that Duan Lingtian was going to die today. He would most likely have to pay with his life for the Yuan brothers. It's a pity his innate spiritual root is only a yellow innate spiritual root. If he possesses an innate spiritual root that's blue or above, coupled with the 3 high-grade divine abilities he has mastered, the higher-ups would only punish him symbolically even if he kills a few more people, let alone the Yuan brothers. Imagination is beautiful, but reality is cruel. Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root was confirmed to be a yellow innate spiritual root when he was in the Black Turtle Sanctum. For this reason, he'll definitely die today. It's such a pity that such a genius who's good at comprehending and has mastered high-grade divine abilities is going to be executed soon. The group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples whispered among themselves again. Not many of them thought Duan Lingtian would survive. I wonder if Duan Lingtian will escape when he knows he's going to die. Although the chances of him escaping are slim, if he doesn't escape, he won't be able to survive at all. If I were him, I'd definitely take a gamble even if I know the chances of escaping are slim. As long as I win, I'll be able to live a comfortable life. It seems like he has no intention of escaping at all. Amidst the discussions, many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian. However, they discovered Duan Lingtian had been standing there for a long time. From the beginning until the end, he had no intention of leaving at all. In the next instant, they were dumbfounded when they saw Duan Lingtian's actions. Duan Lingtian flew out. However, he did not leave the residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. Instead, he flew and landed in front of the Tertius house where Yuan Hong stayed before he sat down at the stone table in the small courtyard. Duan Lingtian sat there quietly as though he was waiting for something. Soon after, a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's Silver Flame Elder arrived. Elder Wu. Elder Wu. When the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples saw this Silver Flame Elder, they quickly bowed at him. None of them dared to show any disrespect at all. The person who arrived was a fat old man. His short stature made him look as fat as a ball. His chubby face, in particular, was so small that only a pair of small eyes could be seen. However, it was precisely this fat old man's small eyes that were sharper and more spirited than anyone else's eyes. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's Enforcement Elder? When everyone bowed at the fat old man, Duan Lingtian could vaguely guess the other party's identity. Under the signal of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's Enforcement Elder Wu Yi discovered the Yuan brothers' bodies. His chubby face turned grave immediately, and his small eyes gleamed coldly. "You're Duan Lingtian?" Under the signal of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, Wu Yi shifted his gaze to Duan Lingtian. When he saw Duan Lingtian sitting there leisurely with one leg crossed over the other, he was instantly enraged. "Stand up." After taking a deep breath, Wu Yi suddenly shouted and asked Duan Lingtian to stand up. His tone was dignified and contained an unquestionable meaning. Upon hearing Wu Yi's shout, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene could not help but feel chills running down their spines. They knew very well that although this enforcement elder of their Vermilion Bird Sanctum seemed harmless, he was actually extremely terrifying. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become the enforcement elder of their Vermilion Bird Sanctum. Junior brother Lingtian. He's the enforcement elder of our Vermilion Bird Sanctum, Wu Yi. He seems harmless, but that's not the case at all. You should try to go along with him. Otherwise, who knows what he'll do. Guli immediately reminded Duan Lingtian through voice transmission. His voice was filled with worry. When Duan Lingtian heard Wu Yi's shout, he narrowed his eyes and stood up at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. Then, he left the small courtyard and stepped into the air. When Duan Lingtian arrived near Wu Yi, he bowed slightly and cupped his hands together. "Greetings, Elder Wu Yi." I dare not accept your greetings. Faced with Duan Lingtian's greeting, Wu Yi's expression softened a little. However, his tone was still as domineering as before. I'm the enforcement elder of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, Wu Yi. I came here today to investigate the death of my Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang. You, Duan Lingtian, a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple, have disregarded our Zoroastrianism's rules and killed the two Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang. Do you admit to your crimes? When Wu Yi reached the end of his sentence, his eyes narrowed as a terrifying aura emitted from his body. The aura that contained a powerful and oppressive force swept out like a tidal wave toward Duan Lingtian. If it was an ordinary person, their expression would have changed when they saw Wu Yi's aura. However, Duan Lingtian remained unmoved like a mountain. He was not affected at all. A hint of surprise appeared in the depth of Wu Yi's eyes when he saw this. Elder Wu Yi, if I'm not mistaken, let's not talk about whether I admit to my crimes or not. I don't think you can decide what happened today, right? After all, I'm not a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple. Duan Lingtian looked at Wu Yi and said nonchalantly, there was a rule in the four symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism. If a disciple from any of the sanctums committed a crime, only the enforcement elder from that sanctum could decide what to do. The enforcement elders from the other sanctums could only decide what to do with the disciples from their own sanctums. For this reason, even if Duan Lingtian had come to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum to kill someone and violated the Zoroastrianism's rules, the enforcement elder from the Black Turtle Sanctum would be the one to decide what crime he was charged with. You know the rules. When Wu Yi heard Duan Lingtian's words, he snorted and said, before I came here, I've already asked another Silver Flame Elder from our Vermilion Bird Sanctum to invite the Enforcement Elder from your Black Turtle Sanctum. Elder Guoxiong will be here soon. Guoxiong was the Enforcement Elder from the Black Turtle Sanctum. All right. Duan Lingtian nodded nonchalantly. Then, under the incredulous gaze of everyone present, including Wu Yi, he turned around and continued to swagger into the Secundus house where Yuan Hong lived when he was still alive. Not only that, he also closed the door behind him. Then, Duan Lingtian's voice resonated in the air again. Elder Wu Yi, when Elder Guoxiong arrives, let me know. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene was dumbfounded. Was he not a little too bold? On the other hand, the enforcement elder from the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, Wu Yi, was so enraged that his chubby face trembled. His small eyes gleamed coldly. If looks could kill, Duan Lingtian would have been killed many times over. Junior brother Lingtian. Even though Guli knew Duan Lingtian and was familiar with him, when he saw Duan Lingtian's bold actions, he felt like Duan Lingtian had become a stranger. He could not see through Duan Lingtian at all. Naturally, he was not like the other Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who thought Duan Lingtian was seeking death. In his opinion, since his junior brother Lingtian dared to do this, he must be confident. However, he did not know what kind of confidence he had. On the other hand, when the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong received the news and rushed to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. The Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder Lian had also received the news and rushed to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum almost at the same time as Guoxiong. Chapter 1948. How could it not be ugly? Lian was the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder. He was second only to one person in the Black Turtle Sanctum. Even in the entire four symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism, he was still considered one of the top figures. However, someone like him was continuously provoked by a new disciple who had just entered the Black Turtle Sanctum and had just joined the Zoroastrianism. At the very least, in Lian's opinion, it was a blatant provocation. In Lian's opinion, this was the greatest insult to him. The first time, the new disciple had killed his best friend's son in front of him. The second time, the new disciple had killed his prospective direct disciple. The third time, the new disciple had killed his grand disciple. How could he tolerate this? This was especially so when he found out his grand disciple had offended Duan Lingtian because he wanted to avenge him. Lian was completely enraged. Duan Lingtian, how dare you kill Yuan Hong and his younger brother one after another? I'd like to see how you're going to keep your lowly life this time. When Lian arrived at the Vermilion Bird's sanctum, his expression was grave, and his eyes were cold. In his opinion, this time, Duan Lingtian was dead meat. Put aside the fact that Yuan Hong might not have wanted to kill him. Even if he did, he would have killed Yuan Hong out of self-defense. However, what about Yuan Hong's younger brother? Based on the information he had obtained, Yuan Hong's younger brother, Yuan Kuang, did not make a move against Duan Lingtian at all. Duan Lingtian had killed Yuan Kuang for no reason other than killing a fellow disciple. According to the rules of Zoroastrianism, Duan Lingtian had to pay with his life for Yuan Kuang's. Elder Guoxiong, I don't think you're going to rule that Duan Lingtian is innocent like last time, right? Lian asked after he caught up to Guoxiong. His eyes flashed when he arrived next to Guoxiong. Humph! Guoxiong, who had come because Duan Lingtian had killed the 2 Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, had a gloomy expression when he heard Lian's words. Elder Lian, are you questioning the fairness of the ruling I made last time? Since you feel that my previous ruling was unfair, why don't you appeal to the altar master? As he spoke, Guoxiong's voice became colder and colder, causing the surrounding temperature to drop by a few degrees. I just want to remind Elder Guoxiong that some people don't always kill based on reason. Today, even if Duan Lingtian killed Yuan Hong in self-defense, the crime of killing Yuan Kuang is enough for him to be executed. Lian said indifferently. As he spoke, his tone turned cold. Elder Lian, as the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder, I, Guoxiong, know what I'm doing. It's not up to you to tell me what to do, Guoxiong said in a deep voice. From his words, he did not give Lian any face. Humph! Lian's expression turned grave when he saw Guoxiong did not give him any face. A hint of killing intent flashed in the depth of his eyes. Following that, Lian's body flashed as he sped up and headed to the residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples ahead of Guoxiong. At the residence of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, more and more Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples walked out of their respective residences. They only had one purpose in coming out, and that was to join in the fun. Due to this reason, it did not take long before the sky above the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples' residences was filled with a few thousand people. At this moment, these people, led by the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder Wu Yi, were surrounding a Secundus house as they discussed among themselves. At this moment, the door of the Secundus house was tightly shut, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. That Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple, Duan Lingtian, is so fierce? He still dares to act so arrogantly in front of our Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder Wu Yi after killing Yuan Hong? He even entered Yuan Hong's residence to rest in front of Elder Wu Yi? Duan Lingtian is really rebellious. Does he really think the rules of our Zoroastrianism are dead? No matter what he did, he'll definitely die today. As for his seemingly valiant behavior, perhaps he just wants to indulge himself before he dies. That makes sense. I think he's just going for broke. He's not afraid of anything anymore. The group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples whispered among themselves. They knew Duan Lingtian was going to be executed soon. Humph. If it's not for the rule of our Zoroastrianism's 4 symbol sanctums, which states that the enforcement elders of one of the sanctums are not allowed to punish the disciples of another sanctum, Duan Lingtian wouldn't have survived until now. Can't you see how dark Elder Wu Yi's expression is? He's really angered by Duan Lingtian this time. The Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder should be arriving soon. When the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder arrives, it'll be time for Duan Lingtian to pay with his life for the Yuan brothers. I really want to see if Duan Lingtian can still be so arrogant at that time. As the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples discussed among themselves, the expression of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder, Wu Yi, darkened. Although his face was full of fat, one could see that his expression was extremely ugly. One could see how furious he was. Ever since Wu De became the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder, this was his first time seeing such an arrogant Zoroastrianism disciple. After killing his fellow disciple, he actually acted as though nothing had happened. He even completely disregarded him, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder. After this matter is over, I'll look for the sanctum leader and ask him to look for the hall master of the Saint Land's enforcement hall to change the rules of the 4 symbol sanctums. When an outer sanctum's disciple killed someone in the four symbol sanctums, I, the enforcement elder of the four symbol sanctums, can't even uphold justice for the deceased. It's so humiliating to be an enforcement elder like this, Wu muttered to himself. In the end, he felt extremely humiliated. Naturally, it was not as if he had never encountered an outer sanctum's disciple committing a crime in the vermilion bird sanctum before. However, although he could not punish those outer sanctum's disciples, they would still act like a mouse that had seen a cat when they saw him. He enjoyed the feeling of a cat catching a mouse very much. However, today, Duan Lingtian had completely disregarded him. Not only did he not enjoy the feeling of a cat catching a mouse, but he also felt extremely humiliated. As the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder, he could only watch as an outer sanctum's disciple who killed his fellow disciple acted so freely under his nose. However, he could not do anything about it. Humiliating, unbearable, furious. These were the emotions Wu De, the enforcement elder of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, felt at the moment. Junior brother Ling Tian, as a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple, Guli, naturally, stood among the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. When he looked at the Secundus house that originally belonged to Yuan Hong, a bitter smile appeared on his face. Although he was confident in Duan Lingtian, he was confident in him. However, based on the current situation, it was extremely disadvantageous for Duan Lingtian. He's Guli? Duan Lingtian killed the Yuan brothers because of him? Speaking of which, he's quite a pitiful person. He was always bullied by the Yuan brothers. Now that the Yuan brothers are dead, he can be considered to have escaped from the clutches of the devil. He's fine, but that junior brother Ling Tian of his is going to be executed today. When the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder arrives, Duan Ling Tian will definitely die. Currently, Guli had become the center of attention of many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. Upon hearing the words of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, Guli became even more worried about Duan Lingtian's safety. No matter how lively it was outside, there was no one in the Secundus house that originally belonged to Yuan Hong. Naturally, it was not completely empty. In an inconspicuous corner, the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda that had shrunk to the size of a speck of dust stood there. Inside the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda, or to be more precise, in the fourth level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda, a person was sitting cross-legged and cultivating. How fast? With my current cultivation speed, I'll only need 5 months to make a breakthrough even if I cultivate in the Secundus house. 5 months in the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda is only half a month in the outside world. In other words, I'll only need half a month in the outside world to successfully break through to the Mastery Divine Saint stage. Duan Lingtian suddenly opened his eyes with a pleasantly surprised expression on his face. He had entered the Secundus house to sense his current cultivation speed. After all, he no longer possessed a green innate spiritual root, but a blue innate spiritual root. Although my blue innate spiritual root is only light blue, with the help of the time flow on the fourth level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda, my current cultivation speed is comparable to a monstrous genius with a light blue innate spiritual root. Apart from that, even if I cultivate in the Secundus house, with the help of the cultivation environment on the fourth level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda, my current cultivation environment is comparable to the Primus house. Of course, if I can cultivate in the Primus house, my cultivation speed will also be improved further. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he could not help but feel excited. It's almost time. Elder Guoxiong should be here soon, right? When Duan Lingtian thought of this, he immediately left the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda and put it away. Then, he sat cross-legged on the wooden bed in the Secundus house and closed his eyes to rest. At the same time, outside the Secundus house, a figure moved swiftly and arrived next to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement Elder Wu De in just a blink of an eye. Elder Wu De. The person greeted Wu De. Elder Lian. In the face of the greeting, Wood also responded, but he didn't show any flattery. He was the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder. His strength was in no way inferior to the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong. Even if he was not as strong as Lian, he was not too far off. For this reason, He was very casual even when he was facing Leon, its elder Lian, the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder. Lian? Lian's appearance instantly attracted the attention of many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples. What about Duan Lingtian? Chapter 1949. When Wui heard Lian's question, if he did not know about the conflict between Lian and Duan Lingtian, he would have cursed out loud. Were all the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples so arrogant? How dare he disregard him, the enforcement elder of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's territory? He's in the Secundus house that originally belonged to Yuan Hong. He said he'll come out when the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong arrives. When Wu Yi reached the end of his sentence, his eyes narrowed coldly. His fat face was contorted, showing just how angry he was at this moment. What? Upon hearing Wu Yi's words, Lian's expression changed drastically. He shouted angrily, "Who does he think he is? He's just a sinner who has violated the sect's rules. How dare he be so presumptuous?" As soon as Lian finished speaking, before Wu Yi and the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene could react, he had already made his move at lightning speed. Boom! Lian casually raised his hand and slapped forward. A vast and nearly invisible energy instantly transformed into a palm print. The palm print tore through the air and caused a loud bang as it ruthlessly landed on the second-class house in front of him. Rumble! As a series of earth-shattering explosions reverberated in the air, the Secundus house suddenly collapsed and turned into ruins. Smoke and dust filled the air. From afar, one could feel chills running up one's spine. How ruthless! Upon seeing this, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene shuddered. They did not expect the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder Lian to be so ruthless. He destroyed the Secundus house in just one move. Elder Lian. Upon seeing this, Wu Yi's expression turned grave as he glared at Lian angrily. Whether it was Lian destroying the Secundus house in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples' residence or abusing his authority, he was displeased. Although he was displeased by Duan Lingtian's actions, he did not think of abusing his authority. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for a mere Duan Lingtian to survive in his hands. As the law-enforcing elder of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, Wu Yi was just like any other person. He would get angry because of all kinds of unpleasant things, but he had his own principles. In Zoroastrianism, everything was done according to the rules. This was Wu Yi's principle. "Don't worry, I didn't kill him," Lian said calmly. Although he wanted to tear Duan Lingtian into pieces, he was not so impulsive as to kill Duan Lingtian in front of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder. He made a move because he didn't want to make things too easy for Duan Lingtian. In his opinion, the reason why Duan Lingtian dared to be so arrogant was definitely because he knew that he was going to die. So he wanted to be complacent and enjoy himself before he died. Duan Lingtian wanted to enjoy it, but he wouldn't let him. "Don't you like to rest? Let's see how you're going to rest after I destroy the house." Lian. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the ruins shook a few times, and then an angry and cold voice came out. Boom. Following that, another loud sound reverberated in the air as the ruins exploded. A person rose up into the air. It was none other than Duan Lingtian, who had a grave expression on his face. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was covered in dust since he had just come out from the ruins. "Duan Lingtian, how dare you call me by my name when you see me? Do you know that you violated the Zoroastrianism's rule of not respecting your elders?" Lian said coldly. A hint of satisfaction could be seen in his eyes when he saw Duan Lingtian's wretched state. Based on his words, he was directly saying Duan Lingtian did not respect his elders. Humph. Upon hearing Lian's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but snort coldly. He retorted, "If I'm not mistaken, there's also a rule in Zoroastrianism that the elders in the sect are not allowed to bully the weak. You've already put aside your pride to bully the weak, and you still want me to respect you? Is there something wrong with your head, or are you an idiot to begin with?" Duan Lingtian had been suppressing the anger in his heart for a long time when Lian destroyed his room. Now that he heard Lian say that he did not respect his elders, he could not hold it in any longer and exploded. He did not respect his elders and bullied the weak. How could he still have the cheek to say he did not respect his elders? Ridiculous. Extremely ridiculous. When Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he felt much better. However, while his anger was appeased, Li An's anger was not. Idiot? As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the entire place fell silent. Then, all eyes shifted to Duan Lingtian, causing him to become the center of attention. These gazes came from the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who were present. Their gazes were filled with shock, disbelief, admiration, and surprise. All in all, when Duan Lingtian said the word idiot to Lian, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene had different thoughts. Some of them thought Duan Lingtian was seeking death. Some of them thought Duan Lingtian was going all out. Since he knew he was going to die, he wanted to enjoy himself before he was executed. There were also some people who admired Duan Lingtian. They did not know why Duan Lingtian dared to act so boldly. Duan Lingtian, you're seeking death. When Lian looked at Duan Lingtian again, an awe-inspiring killing intent rose from his body, and his eyes flickered with a cold light. At this moment, he felt as though his lungs were about to explode because of Duan Lingtian. Ever since he became a Zoroastrianism's elder, who else would dare to call him an idiot in front of him? Duan Lingtian, an ordinary Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple who only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root, actually dared to call him an idiot. This made him feel as though he had swallowed a fly. What? Elder Lian, are you angry now? Duan Lingtian was amused when he saw how angry Lian was. He said nonchalantly, I don't think I've said anything wrong. Why don't we ask Elder Wu Yi to be the judge of this? As the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder, I'm sure he knows the rules of Zoroastrianism better than both of us. Why don't we ask him to tell us who provoked who first today? Who's at fault? Lian was rendered speechless when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He felt as though his lungs were about to explode. After all, he was the one who instigated the conflict between him and Duan Lingtian. If you respect me, I'll respect you tenfold. When Duan Lingtian saw that Lian did not reply, he continued to say, I, Duan Lingtian, always have a clear conscience. Naturally, now that I'm in Zoroastrianism, I'll definitely abide by the rules of Zoroastrianism. Duan Lingtian's first sentence was still acceptable. Many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples secretly gave him a thumbs up. As for the last sentence, it made everyone's expression become a little strange. Duan Lingtian said he would abide by the rules of Zoroastrianism? What a joke. Could it be that he did not violate the rules of Zoroastrianism when he killed Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang earlier? Was he abiding by the rules of Zoroastrianism? Due to Duan Lingtian's actions earlier, the people present on the scene scoffed at his second sentence. Duan Lingtian is too shameless. How can he say something like that? That's right. If he abides by the rules of Zoroastrianism, he wouldn't have killed Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang. It's still fine if it's Yuan Hong since he killed them out of self-defense. However, what about Yuan Kuang? From the beginning until the end, Yuan Kuang did not even make a move against him. However, he still killed Yuan Kuang. It's fine if other people say this, but Duan Lingtian is the most ridiculous person in the world when he said this. Based on his actions, it seems like he's just venting his emotions. It seems like he's also aware that he's running out of time. Since the Black Turtle Sanctum's Elder Lian is here, I'm afraid the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement Elder Guoxiong will be here soon. Most of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples glanced at Duan Lingtian before they shook their heads. They felt that Duan Lingtian did not have much time left, so he was being so self-indulgent. Hermph, I can't be bothered to argue with you. After all, no matter what, you'll definitely die today. Lian snorted coldly as though he knew he was no match for Duan Lingtian. He no longer said anything to Duan Lingtian. Instead, he stood quietly at the side with his eyes closed as he waited for the arrival of the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement Elder Guoxiong. When Duan Lingtian saw Lian had fallen silent, he no longer continued to speak. He retracted his cold gaze from Lian. Soon after, the scene became quiet again. Everyone was waiting for the arrival of the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement Elder Guoxiong. After a few breaths, whoosh, a soft voice was transmitted into the ears of everyone present. causing them to raise their heads and look into the distance. They saw an old figure flying toward them at an extremely fast speed. Soon after, the figure landed next to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder Wu Yi. It was a person wearing the Black Turtle Sanctum's Silver Flame Elder's uniform. It's the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder, Elder Guoxiong? The group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples immediately shifted their attention to the newcomer, Elder Guoxiong. Duan Lingtian looked at the newcomer and narrowed his eyes. He was not afraid at all. In fact, in the four symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism, as a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple, Guoxiong, the enforcement elder of the Black Turtle Sanctum, had the right to sentence him to death based on the severity of his crime. Elder Guoxiong. When Wu Yi saw Guoxiong, his eyes lit up as though he had seen his savior. Elder Guoxiong, you came at the right time. Now, you can make your decision and sentence Duan Lingtian to pay with his life for the Yuan brothers, Lian said to Guoxiong directly. Based on his words, it was as though he was giving an order. He really wanted to see Duan Lingtian sentenced to death, so he did not realize he had overstepped his boundaries. When Wu Yi heard Lian's words, he could not help but frown even though he was not involved. As the person involved, Guoxiong's expression darkened immediately. He said rudely to Lian, Elder Lian, it's not up to you to tell me what to do. Chapter 1950. This was not Lian's first time being treated so rudely by Guoxiong. Please search for the most complete. Damn. However, being humiliated by Guoxiong in front of so many people, he couldn't help but feel a burst of anger in his heart. Although he was furious, he did not show it on his face. At the very least, it was not appropriate for him to show it at this moment. Who knew if Guoxiong would rule in Duan Lingtian's favor if he fell out with Guoxiong? Although according to the Zoroastrianism's rules, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Duan Lingtian would definitely be killed. Who knew if Guoxiong, the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder, would side with him? In order to witness Duan Lingtian's death, he chose to endure it for now. Based on this, one could see how much he wanted Duan Lingtian to be killed. Duan Lingtian. After Guoxiong retracted his gaze from Lian, he immediately shifted his gaze to Duan Lingtian. His eyes gleamed coldly as he asked in a deep voice, I heard you killed 2 Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples? When Guoxiong asked Duan Lingtian, everyone's eyes instantly shifted to Duan Lingtian. Yes. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Duan Lingtian replied without hesitation. Why? Guoxiong asked again. Although everything was going according to procedure, his voice gradually turned colder. Yuan Hong wanted to kill me, so I killed him out of self-defense. Duan Lingtian said in a timely manner. As for Yuan Kuang, although he didn't make a move on me, he threatened my friend's life in an attempt to interfere with my fight with Yuan Hong. In my opinion, he's an accomplice of Yuan Hong. Both of them wanted to kill me, so I killed him out of self-defense as well. His words were said fluently as though he had rehearsed it countless times. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the entire place fell silent again. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples looked at each other. They could see the confusion in each other's eyes. After a while, many people began to whisper among themselves, Isn't Duan Lingtian a little too shameless? Indeed, he's shameless. It can be said that he killed Yuan Hong out of self-defense. However, Yuan Kuang did not make a move on him at all, and he actually found such an excuse to say he killed Yuan Kuang out of self-defense. What a joke. Does he really think the enforcement elders from the Black Turtle Sanctum are so easily deceived? Do you think they believe everything he says? In my opinion, not only does he think the Black Turtle Sanctum's Duan Lingtian, but he also thinks our Vermilion Bird. In the beginning, the group, the Vermilion Bird Sanctums, the Vermilion, Vermildly, the Vermilion as well. When the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong heard the words of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, his expression turned grave immediately. Elder Duan Lingtian, don't listen to Duan Lingtian's nonsense. I've already investigated what happened today. It's true that Yuan Hong launched a sneak attack on him, but I can't be sure if he intended to kill him or not. At the same time, Wu Yi, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder, looked at Duan Lingtian and said, Let's just assume that Yuan Hong tried to kill Duan Lingtian and was killed by him out of self-defense. However, Based on my investigation, Yuan Kuang did not threaten his friend's life. It's not difficult to verify this. We can ask his friend to swear on the lightning penalty oath, and the truth will be revealed. I believe he can confirm if Yuan Kuang threatened his friend's life to interfere with Duan Lingtian. When Wu Yi reached the end of his sentence, he shifted his gaze to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples nearby and found Gu Li. When Gu Li heard Wu Yi's words and saw Wu Yi looking at him, horror dawned on him. He was not afraid of death. If he could exchange his life for his junior brother Ling Tian's safety, he would be more than happy to do so. However, if he swore on the lightning penalty oath according to Wu Yi's words, not only would he die from the lightning penalty, but he would also implicate his junior brother Ling Tian. At that time, everyone would be able to confirm that Duan Lingtian did not kill Yuan Kuang out of self-defense. According to the Zoroastrianism's rule, killing a fellow disciple for no reason was a capital offense. Elder Wu Yi, there's no need for that. When Duan Lingtian saw everyone, including the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement Elder Guoxiong, had shifted their attention to Gu Li, he quickly interjected. As soon as he spoke, he stopped Wu Yi. What? Do you admit that you killed your fellow disciple? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Wu Yi shifted his gaze from Gu Li to Duan Lingtian and smirked coldly. Lian stood at the side and looked at Duan Lingtian coldly. A cruel smile appeared on his face. It was as though he could already see Duan Lingtian being executed. Elder Wu Yi, I didn't admit to it. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Duan Lingtian, if you don't admit to it, just ask your friend to do as Elder Wu Yi said. At that time, the truth will be revealed. At this moment, Guoxiong was furious. Elder Guoxiong, there's no need to rush. Duan Lingtian shook his head again before he transmitted his voice to Guoxiong. This sentence caused Guoxiong's eyes to widen in shock. An expression of disbelief appeared on his face. However, at the same time, a hint of suspicion could be seen on Guoxiong's face. In the end, he turned to look at the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement Elder Wu Yi and transmitted his voice to Wu Yi. Immediately, Wu Yi's face was filled with shock and disbelief. At the same time, he also revealed a somewhat suspicious expression. Just when everyone, including Lian, noticed that there was something wrong with the two law-enforcing elders' expressions, Lian's expression changed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The air rippled as a wave of scorching and vast flame energy surged out from the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement Elder Wu Yi's body. In the end, it consolidated into a flame territory. The flame territory was like a gigantic beast that swallowed Wu Yi, Guoxiong, and Duan Lingtian. In just a blink of an eye, only a huge fireball with a diameter of 100 meters was left in front of everyone's eyes. The huge fireball continued to burn as it hovered in the air, blocking everyone's sight. What's Wu Yi doing? Lian could not help but frown when he saw this. Even if they wanted to execute Duan Lingtian, according to the rules, they would have to make a verbal judgment first, right? For some reason, an ominous feeling rose in Lian's heart. Moreover, this feeling grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, Lian even wanted to barge into Wu Yi's flame territory to see what he and Guoxiong were up to. However, in the end, he resisted the urge. Naturally, he could do that. However, the consequences were not something he could bear. At that time, as long as Wu Yi and Guoxiong reported him to the St. Lan's Enforcement Hall, he would not be able to get away scot-free even if he was the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder. As the enforcement elders of the four symbol sanctums, Wu Yi and Guoxiong were directly under the St. Lan's Enforcement Hall. What are Elder Wu Yi and Elder Guoxiong doing? Are they going to execute Duan Lingtian? Even if they want to execute Duan Lingtian, according to the rules, they would have to make a verbal judgment first, right? Perhaps, Duan Lingtian's shamelessness has angered the two enforcement elders. Due to this reason, they no longer intend to execute Duan Lingtian verbally. That's possible. As the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples discussed among themselves, more than 90% of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples thought the same thing. Wu Yi had cast the flame territory to block their sight because he wanted to execute Duan Lingtian. Even Gu Li felt the same way. At this moment, Gu Li's face turned pale immediately. He clenched his fists tightly as his body began to tremble uncontrollably. At this moment, he hated himself to the core. He hated himself for being too weak. He could not help Duan Lingtian at all. The appearance of the flame territory immediately separated the two worlds. Most of the people outside the flame territory thought Duan Lingtian was going to be executed. However, inside the flame territory, Duan Lingtian was in peace with the two enforcement elders. Whoosh, whoosh. Guoxiong and Wu Yi took out a transparent spiritual pearl at the same time. It was the spiritual pearl that was used to test one's innate spiritual root. Wu Yi had cast the flame territory to block the sight of the people outside for this very moment. Duan Lingtian, if you dare to deceive me and Elder Guoxiong, I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to wish for death, even if I have to execute you. Wu Yi threatened in a deep voice as he passed the spiritual pearl to Duan Lingtian. His eyes were cold as he passed the spiritual pearl to Duan Lingtian. Although Guoxiong did not say anything, the piercing look in his eyes when he looked at Duan Lingtian explained everything. The facts will prove everything. After receiving the spiritual pearls from the two enforcement elders, Duan Lingtian held one spiritual pearl in each hand with a flip of his palm as he waited quietly. Normally, the spiritual pearls would only react after the span of 10 breaths. Earlier, Duan Lingtian had told Guoxiong a piece of important news through voice transmission. He possessed a blue innate spiritual root. As the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder, Guoxiong did not have any dealings with Duan Lingtian before this. However, due to Gulong's death 10 days ago, he had come across Duan Lingtian again. It was precisely because of that encounter that he learned some things about Duan Lingtian. This included the fact that Duan Lingtian only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root. At that time, Guoxiong was puzzled. Where did a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple who only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root find the courage to go against the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder? However, today, Duan Lingtian had told Guoxiong through voice transmission again. His innate spiritual root is not a yellow innate spiritual root, but a blue innate spiritual root. In Zoroastrianism, martial geniuses with blue innate spiritual roots would usually be given special treatment. They would even be allowed to do things that ordinary disciples would not be able to do. That included killing fellow disciples of the same sect. Why did Gulong dare to kill Duan Lingtian 10 days ago? It was all because he thought Duan Lingtian was a martial genius with a blue innate spiritual root. The Zoroastrianism that valued talents would not kill him. Chapter 1951. Finally, the span of 10 breaths had passed. The two spiritual pearls in Duan Lingtian's hands began to shine with a green light as though they were telling the people around them something. It's really a blue innate spiritual root. Wu Yi's eyes widened immediately. Before this, he did not believe Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root. This was because the Black Turtle Sanctum had informed him that Duan Lingtian possessed a yellow innate spiritual root. However, he had no choice but to believe it when he saw this. Blue innate spiritual root. Guoxiong was momentarily stunned when he saw the reaction of the two spiritual pearls in Duan Lingtian's hands. When he regained his senses, he cursed the two Black Turtle Sanctum's bronze flame elders who tested Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root. How could they turn a martial genius with a blue innate spiritual root into a mediocre person with a yellow innate spiritual root? Not only was this a trap, but it was also pushing a martial genius out of Zoroastrianism. Duan Lingtian, why don't you acknowledge me as your master and come to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum? When Wu Yi looked at Duan Lingtian again, he narrowed his small eyes that shone with hope. The fat on his face relaxed as he revealed a smile that he thought was gentle. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten about the conflict between him and Duan Lingtian. He wanted Duan Lingtian to acknowledge him as his master as soon as he opened his mouth. In the fire worship sect, a martial genius with a blue innate spiritual root would always be fought over by the Silver Flame Elders to be their disciple. As a Silver Flame Elder in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, Wu Yi was, naturally, no exception. There's nothing good for you in the Black Turtle Sanctum. Moreover, you've already offended that vengeful Leon. If you continue to stay in the Black Turtle Sanctum, you'll only bring trouble to yourself. If you're willing to acknowledge me as your master, I'll immediately ask the Sanctum leader of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum to negotiate with the Sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum and ask for you." When Wu Yi reached the end of his sentence, a hint of urgency could be heard in his voice. Bullshit. When Duan Lingtian was put in a spot and was about to refuse, Guoxiong immediately looked at Wu Yi and scolded him. "Duan Lingtian is a martial Dao genius in our Black Turtle Sanctum. How dare you try to poach him in front of me? Do you really think I'm dead?" "Guoxiong, you can't say that." Wu Yi was a little unhappy when he heard Guoxiong's words. He said with a straight face, "Who in the Four Symbol Sanctums does not know about Duan Lingtian's current situation in your Black Turtle Sanctum? If Duan Lingtian continues to stay in the Black Turtle Sanctum, who knows when Lian will kill him? It's not like you don't know what Lian is capable of. He's a guy who will do anything to achieve his goals. In the past, in his eyes, Duan Lingtian is just a mediocre person with a yellow innate spiritual root. It's fine for him to deal with him slowly. However, if he finds out that Duan Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root, he'll definitely do whatever it takes to kill Duan Lingtian. This was one of the reasons Guoxiong had consolidated his flame territory to block the view of the people outside. If Lian found out that Duan Lingtian possessed a blue innate spiritual root, this martial Dao genius would most likely be killed by him. For this reason, I think it's best for Duan Lingtian to come to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. It's too dangerous for him to stay in the Black Turtle Sanctum. After all, Lian will find out about his blue innate spiritual root sooner or later. Wu Yi finished speaking in one breath. Guoxiong's expression changed when he heard Wu Yi's words. "Elder Guoxiong, I know you want to take Duan Lingtian as your direct disciple. However, you didn't say anything because you don't think you'll be able to protect Duan Lingtian. Just let him go and let Duan Lingtian come to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. Lian won't dare to act recklessly in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum," Wu Yi advised. "Humph," Guoxiong snorted. "Although I don't think I'll be able to protect Duan Lingtian, there might be someone in the Black Turtle Sanctum who can protect him." "You?" Wu Yi narrowed his eyes when he heard Lian's words. He asked in shock, "You're going to recommend Duan Lingtian to the Sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum?" "That's right." Guoxiong nodded. "Elder Guoxiong." Wu Yi was instantly anxious when he saw Guoxiong nodding in all seriousness, as he didn't want a duck that was already cooked to fly away. "Out of consideration for my age and the fact that I don't have a proper personal disciple, give Duan Lingtian to me. I, Wu Yi, will surely remember this favor of yours." "I'll definitely remember it." Duan Lingtian, who was standing at the side, was speechless when he saw this. From the beginning until the end, Wu Yi did not seem to ask for his opinion at all. Guoxiong, who was annoyed by Wu Yi, saw Duan Lingtian's speechless expression from the corner of his eyes. His eyes lit up immediately as he said, "Elder Wu Yi, what's the point of telling me so much? If Duan Lingtian doesn't want to stay in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, are you going to tie him up here? In my opinion, you should ask for his opinion first before you try to persuade me. You're putting the cart before the horse." Guoxiong immediately tossed Wu Yi this trouble to Duan Lingtian. When Duan Lingtian saw Wu Yi looking at him, he immediately expressed his stance and said apologetically, "Elder Wu Yi, I'm sorry. I'd like to stay in the Black Turtle Sanctum to comprehend the Black Turtle's Barrier." The Black Turtle's Barrier. The Black Turtle's Barrier was the only reason he wanted to stay in the Black Turtle Sanctum. Currently, he only lacked a high-grade defensive divine ability. As the #1 defensive divine ability in Zoroastrianism, the Black Turtle's Barrier was undoubtedly the most suitable defensive divine ability in Zoroastrianism for him. I forgot that Duan Lingtian, you're also very talented in mastering divine abilities. Currently, you've already mastered 3 high-grade divine abilities. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Guoxiong spoke before Wu Yi could reply. Then, he looked at Wu Yi and said with a smile, "Elder Wu Yi, if I'm not mistaken, the divine ability in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum is not as powerful as the high-grade movement divine ability that Duan Lingtian has mastered. For this reason, you should just give up. Duan Lingtian won't stay in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum." Wu Yi's chubby face was a little stiff. When his eyes met Duan Lingtian's determined gaze, he sighed. Forget it. In the end, Wu Yi waved his hand helplessly like a deflated balloon. It was as though he had suddenly aged a few decades. Elder Wu Yi, the most important thing right now is to deal with Duan Lingtian, Guoxiong suddenly said to Wu Yi with a solemn expression. Upon hearing this, Wu Yi shuddered and regained his senses. His expression turned solemn as well. Since Duan Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root, according to the unspoken rules of Zoroastrianism, it's not a big deal for him to commit such a small mistake. However, we still need to punish him on the surface. Otherwise, we won't be able to convince the others. Wu Yi and Guoxiong looked at each other and quickly reached a consensus. Unspoken rules? Upon hearing Wu Yi's words, Duan Lingtian's lips twitched subtly. Although Duan Lingtian knew the fire worship sect would not exchange his life for the lives of the Yuan brothers after he revealed his blue innate spiritual root, he was certain the fire worship sect would not allow him to kill the Yuan brothers. However, he did not know this was known as the unspoken rules in Zoroastrianism. Outside the flame territory, as time passed by, the uneasiness in Li An's heart grew stronger, and his expression turned grave. It's not over yet? Why do I feel this is strange? If the two enforcement elders want to kill Duan Lingtian, it shouldn't take them so long. Could it be that something has happened? Something has happened? What could have happened? Many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples also noticed something was amiss. However, they could not tell what it was. Junior brother Lingtian. A glimmer of hope could be seen in the depth of Gu Li's eyes. Whoosh! Finally, under the watchful eyes of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder Wu Yi withdrew the flame territory that was blocking everyone's sight. After the flame territory was withdrawn, 3 figures appeared before everyone's eyes. When the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples saw Duan Lingtian, who they thought had been executed standing there as though nothing had happened, they were dumbfounded. Could it be that the 2 enforcement elders did not execute Duan Lingtian after such a long time had passed? Since they did not execute Duan Lingtian, what were they doing earlier? Many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were filled with doubts. Elder Wu Yi, Elder Guoxiong, what were both of you doing earlier? Li An's eyes gleamed brightly as he looked at the 2 enforcement elders and asked in a deep voice. However, even though his voice wasn't soft, regardless of whether it was Wu Yi or Guoxiong, they completely ignored him, causing Li An's expression to become extremely ugly. Junior brother Lingtian. At the same time, Gu Li could not help but send a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian. He could not see through what was happening. Senior brother Gu Li, you just have to watch carefully. Duan Lingtian interrupted Gu Li's voice transmission. His tone was calm, giving off a sense of security. Upon hearing this, Gu Li nodded inwardly. At the same time, he immediately looked at the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement Elder Guoxiong. Today, Elder Guoxiong would be the one to make the decision regarding Duan Lingtian. Cough cough. However, when everyone's attention was on Guoxiong, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement Elder Wu Yi cleared his throat. After successfully attracting everyone's attention, Wu Yi said in a clear voice, I've repeatedly confirmed that Duan Lingtian killed the Yuan brothers out of self-defense. Killing the Yuan brothers out of self-defense? Gu Li was dumbfounded. The group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples was dumbfounded as well. However, he still killed Yuan Kuang even though he knew he could have held back. That's not a good thing. Now, Elder Guoxiong will make the final decision regarding Duan Lingtian's crime. Wu Yi continued to say. When Lian heard the first half of Wu Yi's sentence, his expression had already turned grave. He completely ignored the second half of Wu Yi's sentence. The ominous feeling had finally come true. Chapter 1952. The Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple, Duan Lingtian, killed the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's Yuan Hong and Yuan Kuang. Although there is a reason behind it, and it was self-defense, he was too reckless in killing Yuan Kuang. For this reason, I've reached a consensus with the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's enforcement elder, Elder Wu Yi, and we've decided to send him to the first mine of the 4 symbol sanctums of Zoroastrianism to serve for 10 years and 3 months. Under the watchful eyes of the others, the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder, Guoxiong, made a ruling against Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian would be sent to the first mine of the four symbol sanctums to serve for 10 years and 3 months. The moment Guoxiong's words left his mouth, the entire place fell silent. Apart from Guoxiong and Wu Yi, who had a calm expression on their faces, Duan Lingtian was the only one who remained calm. He was not surprised by the ruling at all. It was as though he had long known about it. As for the others, including Lian and Gu Li, they were stunned by the ruling. Elder Guoxiong. Lian was the first to regain his senses. He looked at Guoxiong with a grave expression as he said in a low voice, Duan Lingtian, you can say that Duan Lingtian killed Yuan Hong out of self-defense, but how can you say that he killed Yuan Kuang out of self-defense? Don't you think it's a little arbitrary for you to make such a rash ruling? Lian questioned Guoxiong as soon as he spoke. Guoxiong's expression turned grave immediately. He glanced at Lian coldly. Elder Lian, this ruling is a unanimous decision made by Elder Wu Yi and I. If you have any objections, you can go to the St. Lands Enforcement Hall in a few days' time to express your opinion. At that time, the ruling I've made today will be recorded in the St. Lands Enforcement Hall's files. You're not qualified to interfere with my ruling. When Guoxiong reached the end of his sentence, his tone was unfriendly. There was even a hint of mockery in his tone. It was because of Lian that he could not accept Duan Lingtian as his disciple. Although he was not much weaker than Lian, he was still weak. In addition, Lian's foundation in Zoroastrianism was stronger than his. If Duan Lingtian became his disciple, he might not be able to protect Duan Lingtian. For this reason, in order not to destroy Duan Lingtian, he planned to recommend Duan Lingtian to the sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum. As long as Duan Lingtian became the direct disciple of the sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum, even if Lian wanted to lay his hands on Duan Lingtian, he would have to think twice before making a move on him. The sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum was a Golden Flame Elder. He was one of the strongest elders in Zoroastrianism. Hearing Guoxiong's words, Lian was instantly enraged. He stared at Guoxiong with an ominous glint in his eyes as his body trembled violently due to his anger. However, Guoxiong completely ignored him. He was not worried Lian would make a move on him. If Lian dared to make a move on him, he was confident he would send Lian to the St. Lands Enforcement Hall. Even if Lian did not die, he would at least be skinned alive. Elder Wu Yi, do you agree with Elder Guoxiong's decision as well? Lian asked as he took a deep breath to suppress the raging anger in his heart. He shifted his gaze from Guoxiong to Wu Yi. Didn't Elder Guoxiong say it already? This is a unanimous decision made by me and him. Wu Yi said impatiently when faced with Lian's question. Good. Very good. In a few days, when all of you file today's decision into the St. Lands Enforcement Hall's case file, I'll personally go to the Enforcement Hall to protest the decision that all of you have made today. After Lian obtained Wu Yi's confirmation, he was so angry that his face was distorted. Then, Lian glanced at Wu Yi and Guoxiong coldly before he shifted his gaze to Duan Lingtian. He said coldly, Duan Lingtian, although I don't know what method you used to make Wu Yi and Guoxiong favor you, however, I want to tell you that the two of them are not the only ones in the Zoroastrianism's Enforcement Hall. When they send today's decision to the Enforcement Hall and file it into the Enforcement Hall's case file, I'll immediately rush to the Enforcement Hall to overturn the decision that they made today. At that time, the Enforcement Hall will send another St. Lands Enforcement Elder to make a new decision on you. You won't be able to live for long. When Lian reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Duan Lingtian as though he was looking at a dead man. Facing Lian's cold shout, Duan Lingtian didn't even look at Lian from the beginning until the end. As soon as Lian finished speaking, he opened his mouth and spat out 2 words unhurriedly. Idiot. Idiot? Duan Lingtian's words stunned the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples present on the scene. Isn't this Duan Lingtian too valiant? He actually dared to call Lian an idiot? Duan Lingtian, you're seeking death. Lian was already furious. When he heard Duan Lingtian calling him an idiot, he was instantly enraged. He wanted to seize this opportunity to attack Duan Lingtian. In his opinion, even if he could not kill Duan Lingtian today, he wanted to teach Duan Lingtian a lesson. Elder Lian, don't tell me you thought I was referring to you when I called you an idiot? That's a huge misunderstanding. Moreover, I didn't call you that earlier, did I? Or perhaps, Elder Lian, you've always had such a nickname? Duan Lingtian said solemnly as he looked at Lian, who was about to make a move. Duan Lingtian's serious appearance angered Lian to the point that he wished for nothing more than to tear Duan Lingtian into pieces. However, he knew he could not touch Duan Lingtian today. This was because as soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he noticed Guoxiong and Wu Yi were staring at him. It was as though they were saying, "If you dare to touch Duan Lingtian, we'll attack you together. Duan Lingtian, you won't be so smug for long." Lian glared at Duan Lingtian coldly before he left in a huff, without waiting for Duan Lingtian's reply. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as he stared at Lian's departing figure. A cold gleam flashed in the depths of his eyes. If he had the chance, he would not let Lian continue to live in this world. Lian's existence was still a hidden danger to him. What's going on? Duan Lingtian killed 2 of our Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples, and this is the only punishment he receives? Isn't this too ridiculous? Moreover, what happened after Elder Wu Yi consolidated his flame territory and shrouded him, Elder Guoxiong and Duan Lingtian? Why is there such a huge change in the situation? That's right. Before that, Elder Guoxiong and Elder Wu Yi were very aggressive when they faced Duan Lingtian. However, after they came out of the flame territory, they stood on Duan Lingtian's side and tried their best to protect him. Moreover, they even gave Duan Lingtian an excuse to punish Duan Lingtian. The turning point must be in the flame territory. Unfortunately, we don't know what happened when they were in there. The group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples whispered among themselves. Their words were filled with confusion. They had seen the changes in Guoxiong, the Black Turtle Sanctum's Enforcement Elder, and Wu Yi, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's Enforcement Elder, before they entered the flame territory. Due to this reason, they were puzzled. This was because the changes in their attitudes were too great. From wanting to punish Duan Lingtian to protecting Duan Lingtian, it only took a blink of an eye for them to accept it. However, they were certain something must have happened. Otherwise, the 2 enforcement elders would not have such a huge change in attitude toward Duan Lingtian. Now that the punishment for Duan Lingtian had been decided, Guoxiong and Wu Yi left one after another. Duan Lingtian, can you tell us why the 2 enforcement elders' attitudes toward you changed so much after they entered the flame territory? Many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were curious. Some of them even asked Duan Lingtian directly. If you want to know, why don't you ask Elder Wu Yi? Duan Lingtian smiled faintly and used Wu Yi as a shield when faced with these people's questions. After a while, a few Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples did not manage to get any answers from Duan Lingtian. They gave up on the idea of finding a breakthrough from Duan Lingtian. Junior brother Lingtian, what's going on? After the group of Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples left, Guli finally had time to be alone with Duan Lingtian. When they were alone, he could not help but send a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian. The Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples were not the only ones who were confused. Even Guli was puzzled. Actually, it's nothing much. I just proved my value to them. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly and replied through voice transmission. What value? Guli became even more curious when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. My innate spiritual root is a blue innate spiritual root, Duan Lingtian said with a faint smile on his face. There was nothing to hide in front of Guli, blue innate spiritual root? Guli narrowed his eyes when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. An expression of disbelief appeared on his face. What's going on? Isn't your innate spiritual root a yellow innate spiritual root? The news of Duan Lingtian possessing a yellow innate spiritual root had long spread in the 4 symbol sanctums. Naturally, Guli had also heard about it. However, Duan Lingtian had just said his innate spiritual root was a blue innate spiritual root. Guli was dumbfounded. He was completely dumbfounded. I can't believe junior brother Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root. However, only such an innate spiritual root is worthy of your martial Tao innate spiritual root. After a while, Guli regained his senses. He thought the news from the Black Turtle Sanctum was fake, so he did not dwell on it. Senior brother Guli, your innate spiritual root must be quite good as well, right? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile. It's much worse than yours. My innate spiritual root is only a green innate spiritual root. Guli replied, Green innate spiritual root? That's not bad. Chapter 1953. In the Zoroastrianism, those who possess a green innate spiritual root can at least become a bronze flame elder in the future. With the innate talent you've displayed in the past, it's not impossible for you to become a silver flame elder in the Zoroastrianism in the future. Duan Lingtian added, Junior brother Lingtian. However, when Guli heard Duan Lingtian's words, he did not agree. Instead, his expression turned grave. What's wrong? When Duan Lingtian saw the grave expression on Guli's face, his heart skipped a beat. His expression turned grave as well. Junior brother Lingtian, I'd like to leave the Zoroastrianism temporarily. I have some matters to attend to, Guli said after taking a deep breath. What matters? Duan Lingtian asked, puzzled. It's not convenient for me to tell you now, but this matter is very important to me. Originally, I planned to bid farewell to you and leave as soon as I saw you. However, the Yuan brothers kept a close eye on me, so I didn't have the chance to go to the Black Turtle Sanctum to look for you. Guli said, Today, you came and killed the Yuan brothers to avenge me. For this reason, I think it's time for me to leave. Senior brother Guli, no matter what you're going to do, I'll support you. Since Guli said it was not convenient for him to say, Duan Lingtian did not ask any further. After all, everyone had their own secrets. How could he not hold back in front of Guli? When Guli heard Duan Lingtian's words, a smile appeared on his face. However, Senior brother Guli, if you want to leave, it's best if you leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, whether it's our Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder Li En or the Northern Plethora Sect's fifth Elder Yang Chong, they'll definitely target you. Duan Lingtian said solemnly. I think so too. Guli nodded. Then, as if he had thought of something, he said to Duan Lingtian, Junior brother Lingtian, please send my regards to Hall Master Zhu. All right. Duan Lingtian immediately agreed. After that, Duan Lingtian escorted Guli all the way to the north of the Vermilion Bird Altar before stopping. If they continued forward, they would be considered to have left the Vermilion Bird Altar. Senior brother Guli, take care. Duan Lingtian said to Guli, Junior brother Lingtian, you have to be careful in Zoroastrianism. I'll come back to help you when I'm done with my business. Perhaps at that time, I will be able to help you a little and not be like a trash like I am now. Guli nodded and laughed at himself when he reached the end of his sentence. Senior brother Guli, what do you mean by that? No matter what, you're still Duan Lingtian's senior brother. This is a fact that can never be changed. Duan Lingtian said solemnly. Under Duan Lingtian's gaze, Guli finally left. Duan Lingtian only regained his senses when Guli's silhouette disappeared from his sight. He immediately left the Vermilion Bird Altar and returned to the Black Turtle Altar. What he wanted to do the most was to return and cultivate. Currently, he possessed a blue innate spiritual root. His cultivation speed was more than 2 times faster than before. I'll be able to break through to the Mastery Divine Saint stage in 2 weeks at most. If I'm given another month, it won't be a problem for me to break through to the peak of the Divine Saint stage. 3 months later, when I go to the 4-symbol Sanctum's first mine to serve my sentence, my cultivation base will most likely break through to the Exemplary Saint stage. On his way back, Duan Lingtian thought about his beautiful tomorrow. The moment he thought of this, he was even more anxious to return home. When Duan Lingtian returned to the Black Turtle Sanctum, Guli had also left the Zoroastrianism. After leaving the Zoroastrianism, he decided on a direction and headed in that direction as though something was guiding him. 30 years. It's been 30 years, Guli muttered to himself as he made his way back. There was a secret in Guli's heart that even his father, Gu Si-yun, did not know about. 30 years ago, he had obtained an incomplete inheritance in the Dao Martial Saint Land. The reason the inheritance was incomplete was because there was only a small portion of it. Moreover, it was incomplete. According to the records of the inheritance, if he wanted to obtain the complete inheritance, he would have to go to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. This was the reason he wanted to come to the upper province. He desperately wanted to obtain the complete inheritance. However, After arriving in the upper province, he did not plan to look for the complete inheritance since he wanted to understand the upper province better. It was only when he was tortured by the Yuan brothers that his competitive spirit was ignited. It made him very eager to obtain the complete inheritance. The reason he did not tell his father, Gu Xiaiyun, about the inheritance was because the senior who left the inheritance had warned him not to share the inheritance with his friends and family. Unless he met someone who was suitable to inherit the inheritance, he was not allowed to pass the inheritance to anyone else. In order to not make things difficult for himself, he decided to treat this as a secret that only he knew. According to the records of the incomplete inheritance I obtained in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the inheritance I'm about to obtain belongs to an ancient sect, the Seven Absolutes sect. The Seven Absolutes sect has a total of 7 absolutes. The inheritance I'm about to obtain is the third absolute, the Kratos. I'm also the successor of the Kratos progeny. Gu Li's eyes lit up. As long as I obtain the inheritance of the Kratos progeny, the third absolute of the 7 absolute sect, my strength will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. At that time, I'll be able to help junior brother Ling Tian when I return to the Zoroastrianism and help him rescue his sister-in-law. The upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was vast and boundless. It was much larger than the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. In the northern polar region of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, this place was covered in snow all year long. The sky and earth were the same color as the land. At this moment, on the peak of a snowy peak in the polar region of the northern region, an old and aged figure was standing. Although his clothes were thin, he did not seem to feel cold at all. The old man's robe fluttered in the wind, accentuating the white snow that was falling from the sky. He looked like an immortal. At this moment, if there was another person here, they would be able to see that the old man was standing on the snowy peak. Although the old man was in a world of ice and snow, his feet did not touch the ground of the snowy peak. Even the falling snow was blown away by an invisible force when it came close to his robes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The cold wind continued to blow at the old man. However, the old man stood there without moving at all. His gaze was fixed in the southwest direction. His fingers were constantly moving as he muttered to himself, "The successor of the fog rain progeny is already here." Moreover, it seems like the successor of the Kratos progeny is about to appear as well. It seems like the day of the 7 Absolutes reunion in the 7 Absolutes sect is not far away. The 7 Absolutes reunion? Old man Tianji, you sure are dreaming. At this moment, a beautiful woman appeared on top of the snowy peak. She walked on the snow without making a sound. The beautiful woman had an exquisite face. Her facial features were almost perfect, making it unforgettable for anyone who saw her. When she heard the old man's words, she could not help but mock him. As far as I know, the 6 Absolutes, Gemini, is still nowhere to be seen, right? The beautiful woman asked again. The Gemini progeny's legacy is in my hands. I've already chosen a successor for it. Based on the time, Shadowless should be bringing them here soon. The old man said, "You wooing? That damn ladyboy?" A hint of disgust flashed in the beautiful woman's eyes when she heard the old man's words. This disgust was clearly directed at the Shadowless mentioned by the old man. "Widow Hua, who are you calling a damn ladyboy?" Almost as soon as the beautiful woman finished speaking, a feminine voice sounded. His tone was mixed with a bit of anger. The voice came from the snowy peak, but there was no third figure in sight. I'm talking about whoever has a voice that's neither male nor female. What? Are you still not convinced? Don't forget that your current cultivation base is far inferior to mine. If you're not convinced, why don't you try fighting me? Hearing the feminine voice, the beautiful woman seemed to have changed into a different person, as if she had turned into a shrew. Hermph! The feminine voice rang again. However, this time, it was only a snort before it disappeared completely. You're an elder after all. What's wrong with going easy on him? The old man sighed. If Duan Lingtian's father, Duan Rufeng, was here, he would definitely recognize this old man as the oracle man who was elusive. Duan Rufeng was no stranger to the voice earlier. It belonged to Yu Wuiying, who had been by his side for some time. The Seven Absolutes sect was divided into 7 absolutes. The fourth absolute was the Shadow Progeny. The successor of this progeny was skilled in assassination. Yu Wuying was the current successor of the Shadow Progeny. Since the damned ladyboy is here, I'm sure the successor you've chosen for the Gemini progeny must be here as well. Let's go. I'll go with you to meet them, the beautiful woman said. Based on her words, it was obvious she was interested in the successor the Oracle Man had chosen for the Gemini progeny, the sixth absolute of the 7 absolute sect. At the same time, in the main hall of a palace that stood on a vast platform halfway up the snowy peak, 2 exclamations sounded in unison as a young woman entered. Miss Xuanai? You. Why are you here? The young woman was stunned when she saw the pair of twins in front of her. The young woman who walked into the main hall was none other than Han Xuanai, who was brought to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land by her master. She was also the eldest miss of the Greenwave Han Mansion in the Debussy Subterranean. You're the people that the damned ladyboy, Yu Wuying, brought here? After a while, Han Xuanai seemed to have thought of something and asked in surprise, Xuanai girl, I'll say it again. I'm not a ladyboy. My name is Yu Wuying. You can call me Senior Brother Yu Wuying or Lord Yu Wuying. Chapter 1954. Miss Xuanai, why are you here? One of the twins looked at Han Xuanai in shock and disbelief. It was apparent he did not expect to see Han Xuanai here. As far as he knew, was Han Xuanai not the eldest young miss of the Greenwave Han Mansion, a fifth-rate force in the Debussy Subterranean? Why was she here? Nangong-yi, I arrived much earlier than both of you. Han Xuanai blinked her lively eyes. When she spoke, there was a hint of surprise in her tone as well. However, I didn't expect that the successor of the Gemini progeny that the damned ladyboy said was chosen by Grandpa Prophet would actually be the 2 of you. This is just too shocking. Why are both of you here? The twins standing in front of Han Xuanai were none other than Nangong Chun and Nangong Yi. Both of them had been staying in the Azure Cloud Mansion ever since Duan Lingtian brought them to the Azure Cloud Mansion. It was only recently that Yu Wuying brought them out of the Azure Cloud Mansion and brought them to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Along the way, Yu Wuying had told them some things. Due to this reason, they knew both of them would soon become the successors of the Didymus progeny in the 7 Absolute sect, an ancient sect in the Dao Martial Saint Land. To them, this was a great opportunity. They were excited for a long time because of this. However, it did not cross their minds that they would meet Han Xuanai here. They were not unfamiliar with Han Xuanai. Back when they were still on the mortal continent, Cloud Continent, they had met Han Xuanai through Duan Lingtian. Xuanai girl, don't blame me for falling out with you if you continue to call me that. The feminine voice resonated again, expressing his displeasure. I'm not the one who gave you the nickname, damn ladyboy. If you want to fall out with me, go look for my master. As long as you can make her stop calling you a damn transvestite, I will definitely stop calling you that in the future. Han Xuanai's mischievous eyes flashed as she spoke to the air. Immediately, the feminine voice no longer sounded. It was completely silenced. Yu Wuying had obviously gone to a corner to be depressed. Han Xuanai's teacher, that widow Hua, was not only a generation older than him, but her strength was also far from what the current him could compare with. Miss Xuanai, are you a disciple of the 7 Absolutes sect as well? Nangong Chun, who stood at the side, asked in shock. On the other hand, Han Xuanai was even more shocked than him. She looked at Nangong Chun as though she was looking at a monster. She was extremely shocked. This Nangong Chun knows how to take the initiative to talk to someone? In Han Xuanai's memory, although the Nangong brothers were twins, and their appearances and figures were exactly the same, their personalities were different. One of them was active while the other was quiet. Their personalities were polar opposites. Due to this reason, she could not help but feel surprised when she saw Nangong Chen, a taciturn person, taking the initiative to talk. That's right. I'm also a disciple of the 7 Absolute sect. I'm the successor of the Red Dust progeny. Han Xuanai nodded in response to Nangong Chen's question. Although the Red Dust progeny was ranked 7th in the 7 Absolute sect, its importance was second to none in the 7 Absolute sect. This was because they were in charge of the most important information. It was not an exaggeration to say that the red dust progeny was the eyes and ears of the 7 Absolutes sect. Apart from the fog rain sword, the other 6 Absolutes in the 7 Absolutes sect were not ranked based on their strength. Putting everything else aside, even the 2nd Absolute, Heavenly Secret, was far inferior to the 3rd Absolute, Kratos, in terms of combat prowess, even if they were at the same cultivation base. The 3rd Absolute, Kratos, might not be able to dodge the assassination of the 4th Absolute, Enneing, who was at the same cultivation base. Even the 4th Absolute, Enneing, might not be able to defeat the 6th Absolute, Gemini, who was at the same cultivation base. After all, he could only assassinate one person in a short period of time. However, there were 2 of the 6 Absolute, Gemini. Both of them were watching him at the same time. Naturally, there was nowhere for him to hide. Apart from the fog rain progeny, the 7 Absolutes of the 7 Absolutes sect each had their own specialties. Outside the palace, in the distance, the Oracle Man and the beautiful woman walked side by side in the sky as though they were taking a stroll. Old Man Tianji, do you really plan to activate the 6 Absolutes' heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation? As they flew through the air, the beautiful woman looked at Elder Tianji and asked with a serious expression.
Yes.
The Oracle Man nodded before he continued to say, since the successor of the fog rain progeny, the 1st Absolute, has appeared, it's time to activate the 6 Absolutes' heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation left behind by the Sword Saint Patriarch. Otherwise, how can the other 6 Absolutes catch up to the successor of the 1st Absolute? Go and look for the successor of the Kratos progeny and bring him back. I'll make a trip to the Phoenix clan and bring the girl from the blazing Phoenix progeny back. At that time, I'll activate the 6 Absolutes' heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation and give the successor of the 6 Absolutes a great fortune. At that time, it'll be time for the old men of our generation to retire. The Oracle Man said, I've already found a successor for the red dust progeny, but I don't think you've found a successor for the prophet progeny, right? The beautiful woman questioned. If you activate the 6 Absolutes' heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation without finding a successor for the prophet progeny, won't you be cutting off the successor of the prophet progeny's future? As for the 2 of us, we're too old to enjoy the 6 Absolutes' heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation. Moreover, as far as I know, the heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation left behind by the Sword Saint ancestor is targeted at the successors of the 6 Absolutes other than the successor of the 1st Absolute. If there's one less Absolute, the effect will be greatly reduced. Don't worry, I've already found a successor for the prophet progeny. When I go to the Phoenix clan to bring the girl from the blazing Phoenix progeny back, I'll bring her back as well. The Oracle Man said. What? Upon hearing the Oracle Man's words, the beautiful woman could not help but turn pale with fright. You've already found a successor for the prophet progeny? Speaking of which, I found her earlier than you. It's just that she didn't cultivate by my side. The Oracle Man smiled faintly. Old man, you're really good at hiding things. You didn't even let me know beforehand. To think that I was worried about you, worried that you wouldn't be able to find a suitable successor. The beautiful woman said in annoyance. Let's go. Follow me to meet the 2 little fellows from the Gemini progeny. At the same time, the Oracle Man and the beautiful woman had also arrived at the palace on the platform halfway up the mountain. The Oracle Man took the lead and entered the palace. The beautiful woman, naturally, followed closely behind him. Snow continued to fall from the snowy peak, completely hiding the palace halfway up the mountain. If one did not get close to it, one would not be able to see the palace at all. The snowy peak was hidden in the snowy land, making it very inconspicuous. Due to this reason, it was not targeted by the 3 great sections. Otherwise, if the people from the 3 great sects found out that the remaining members of the 7 Absolutes sect were hiding here, they would have sent countless powerhouses here with only one purpose in mind, to kill all the remaining members of the 7 Absolutes sect. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of the existence of the snowy peak. Apart from that, he was also unaware that the current successors of the 7 Absolutes sect were all gathered here. Moreover, Duan Lingtian did not even know about the existence of the Seven Absolutes sect. He did not even know that his identity as the successor of the Fog Rain progeny was the first absolute and the leader of the Seven Absolutes sect. After returning to the Black Turtle Sanctum and the place where the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples stayed, Duan Lingtian immediately entered the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to cultivate 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique. As Duan Lingtian circulated the cultivation method, the Sun Saint energy in his body began to circulate through his 99 saint veins. Time flew by. About 5 months had passed by very quickly. At this moment, a vast aura suddenly surged out of Duan Lingtian's body as he sat cross-legged in the air of the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Along with it, the Sun Saint energy solidified. When the Sun Saint energy surged out of his body, it underwent a certain change as well. Following that, the Sun Saint energy returned to Duan Lingtian's body without any warning. It was as though it had never appeared before. I've made a breakthrough. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian opened his eyes. His eyes shone brightly like the stars in the night sky, and they were shining brightly. Earlier, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had broken through to the Mastery Divine Saint stage. I've spent more than 5 months in the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to break through. It's equivalent to more than half a month in the outside world. As expected of a blue innate spiritual root, it's really efficient. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as his eyes shone brighter. In just half a month, his cultivation base had broken through to the Mastery Divine Saint stage from the Intermediate Divine Saint stage. Even a monstrous genius with an indigo innate spiritual root might not be able to compare to such a cultivation speed. I'll continue. I'll break through to the peak of the Divine Saint stage in one go. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he closed his eyes and immersed himself in his cultivation again. He circulated his cultivation method, the 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, and continued to cultivate. In his body, the 9 dragons carried the Sun Saint energy and Heaven and Earth Spirit energy as they circulated one great circulatory cycle after another. When Duan Lingtian opened his eyes again, 1 year and 3 months had passed. Naturally, this was the time in the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Only 1.5 months had passed in the outside world. It must be because I've broken through too quickly that my foundation is not stable. This time, it's much slower to break through to the peak of the Divine Saint stage. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as his eyes gleamed brightly when he sensed the majestic Sun Saint energy in his body. Fortunately, nobody heard what he said. Otherwise, they would definitely beat him up. It had only taken him 1.5 months to break through to the Mastery Divine Saint stage and the peak of the Divine Saint stage. How could he say it was too slow? How was he supposed to live? Chapter 1955. Initially, I thought the transformation of my innate spiritual root would increase my cultivation speed and improve my cultivation base in a short period of time. However, it seems like there's still a limit to it. After cultivating for a while, Duan Lingtian managed to make 2 breakthroughs in his cultivation base. For example, before he had broken through to the peak of the Divine Saint stage, his cultivation base had only just broken through to the Mastery Divine Saint stage. His foundation was not stable at all. It was precisely because of this unstable foundation that he was repeatedly hindered in his later cultivation. If it weren't for this hindrance, I could have saved 1/3 of the time. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. If it were not for his unstable foundation, he was confident he would be able to break through from the Mastery Divine Saint stage to the peak of the Divine Saint stage in a month. Due to his unstable foundation, it took him half a month to break through. Of course, the 1 month and half a month referred to the time in the outside world. 1.5 months in the outside world was equivalent to 1 year and 3 months in the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The ratio of time in the outside world to the fourth level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was 1 to 10. If I continue to cultivate, although I'll be able to break through to the exemplary saint stage in the end, it'll take me a lot of time. It's better for me to stop cultivating for a while and focus on other things such as comprehending divine abilities and comprehending the sovereign heart sword. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he stopped cultivating as well. In fact, he did not need to deliberately stabilize his cultivation base. All he needed was some time, and it would naturally stabilize. There's still a month before I have to go to the Four Symbol Sanctum's first mine to serve. A month outside is equivalent to 10 months in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. During this time, I'll try to comprehend the Black Turtle Sanctum's most treasured divine ability, the Black Turtle's Barrier. I don't believe I won't be able to comprehend it with my heart that has been tempered by the Sovereign Heart Sword. Soon after, Duan Lingtian made up his mind. In the following period of time, he would meditate on the Black Turtle Sanctum's most treasured divine ability, the Black Turtle's Barrier. At the same time, he would allow his cultivation base to undergo a transition period and further stabilize his foundation. But 2 months have already passed in the outside world, and Lian still hasn't made a move. It seems like he was rejected when he went to the St. Lands Enforcement Hall. Before Duan Lingtian comprehended the divine ability, the Black Turtle's Barrier, he thought of the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, Lian. He still remembered 2 months ago, he had killed the Yuan brothers at the Vermilion Bird Altar. He should have been sentenced to death. However, since he had displayed his innate spiritual root in front of the Black Turtle Sanctum's Enforcement Elder Guoxiong and the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's Enforcement Elder Wu Yi, both of them dismissed the idea of killing him. Martial geniuses with blue innate spiritual roots were the main targets of Zoroastrianism. It was not unforgivable for such an existence to kill 1 or 2 ordinary disciples. After all, compared to the death of 1 or 2 ordinary disciples, the death of such a genius was a greater loss to Zoroastrianism. Given the choice, he would naturally choose to protect the latter. If the former died, then so be it. It didn't affect the overall situation. This further explained that the Tao Martial Saint Land was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Even in a powerful force like Zoroastrianism, under the strict rules of Zoroastrianism, disciples with high innate talent and value who would be favored by Zoroastrianism in the future could also break the rules and receive preferential treatment. 2 months ago, Duan Lingtian was able to turn the situation around because he had displayed his value. He possessed a blue innate spiritual root. Now, Lian must have found out that I possess a blue innate spiritual root. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. 2 months ago, Lian refused to accept Guoxiong's decision and had declared that he would go to the Saint Land Enforcement Hall to overturn Guoxiong's decision. However, 2 months had passed, and Lian did not make a move. This meant he did not overturn Guoxiong's decision. The dossier that Elder Guoxiong submitted to the Saint Land Enforcement Hall must have stated that I possess a blue innate spiritual root. Otherwise, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall wouldn't have allowed him to do as he pleases. After all, it's fine if I killed Yuan Hong. Many people saw him attacking me first. However, it's not right for Yuan Kuang to do so. Previously, the reason Duan Lingtian dared to kill the Yuan brothers was because he possessed an innate spiritual root that was about to transform. At that time, his innate spiritual root was dark green. If he took another step forward, he would possess a blue innate spiritual root. As it turned out, he was right. After he killed the Yuan brothers and devoured their innate spiritual roots, his innate spiritual root had successfully transformed from a green innate spiritual root to an indigo innate spiritual root. If he did not reveal his blue innate spiritual root and prove his value, the Black Turtle Sanctum's Enforcement Elder Guoxiong and Wu Yi would not have changed their minds so much after the appearance of the Flame Territory. In the end, they even protected him at all costs. In order to protect him, he even made up some high-sounding words. It was all for the sake of justifying their actions. Naturally, this justification was undoubtedly a huge joke to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who were present that day, because anyone could see that the 2 law-enforcing elders were spouting nonsense. However, what else could they do? As long as the St. Lands Enforcement Hall did not pursue this matter, it would be a foregone conclusion. Based on the current situation, this matter should be a foregone conclusion. As for serving the Four Symbol Sanctum's first mine, it won't affect me at all. According to the Four Symbol Sanctum's rules, the Four Symbol Sanctum's disciples who are punished to serve in the mine will be exempted from the punishment as long as they're qualified to enter the Saint Land. Duan Lingtian had heard about how the Four Symbol Sanctum's disciples would be punished to serve in the mine if they made a mistake. He also knew that he would be exempted from the punishment as long as he could enter the Saint Land. It's not difficult for me to enter the Saint Land of Zoroastrianism. With my current strength, it's enough for me to pass the Saint Land's assessment and become a Saint Land's disciple. However, there's still some time before the next Saint Land assessment. For this reason, in Duan Lingtian's opinion, even if he went to the Four Symbols Sanctum's first mine, he would not have to stay for long. When the Saint Land assessment began, he would be able to leave the mine. As long as he could pass the Saint Land's assessment and become a Saint Land's disciple, he would be exempted from the punishment of serving 10 years. In the next 10 months, I'll properly comprehend the Black Turtle Sanctum's most treasured divine ability, the Black Turtle's Barrier. I don't believe I won't be able to comprehend the Black Turtle's Barrier, the #1 defensive divine ability in Zoroastrianism. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he discarded all distracting thoughts and immersed himself in comprehending the divine ability, the Black Turtle's Barrier. He had memorized a lot of information about the Black Turtle's Barrier when he went to the Black Turtle altar previously. It was very convenient for him to comprehend it now. While Duan Lingtian was comprehending the divine ability, the Black Turtle's Barrier, Lian was in a bad mood. Don't tell me that Duan Lingtian really possesses a blue innate spiritual root? However, during the innate talent assessment, the result of his innate spiritual root was only yellow. Don't tell me he can hide his cultivation base and his innate spiritual root as well? Lian's expression was grave. More than a month ago, he had gone to the Saint Land's enforcement hall with the intention of overturning Guoxiong's verdict on Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian must have killed Yuan Kuang on purpose. Any Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple would be able to testify to this. For this reason, when he went to the Saint Land's enforcement hall, he was filled with confidence that he would be able to overturn Guoxiong's verdict on Duan Lingtian. In his opinion, as long as he could overturn Guoxiong's verdict, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall would definitely send a Saint Land Enforcement Elder to intervene. At that time, Duan Lingtian would definitely die. However, while imagination was beautiful, reality was cruel. When he arrived at the Saint Land's Enforcement Hall and saw the dossier that Guoxiong had submitted regarding his verdict on Duan Lingtian, Lian was dumbfounded. This was because the dossier that Guoxiong had submitted stated that Duan Lingtian might have killed the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple, Yuan Kuang, on purpose. However, since Duan Lingtian was a martial Dao genius with a blue innate spiritual root, according to the unspoken rules of Zoroastrianism that was above the rules of Zoroastrianism, it was not appropriate to sentence Duan Lingtian to death for the death of an ordinary Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple like Yuan Kuang. For this reason, Guoxiong had decided to send Duan Lingtian to the Four Symbols Sanctum's first mine to serve his sentence. The Saint Land's Enforcement Hall had also approved of this verdict. A martial Dao genius with a blue innate spiritual root was worthy of being given the green light in this matter. Blue innate spiritual root? How's that possible? After Lian finished reading the dossier, he felt as though his heart was being trampled on by thousands of horses. He could not calm down for a long time. Then, he immediately accused Guoxiong of falsifying the dossier. This was because he was certain Duan Lingtian only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root and not a blue innate spiritual root. However, the elder on duty in the Saint Land's Enforcement Hall replied to him as follows: "Before we have sufficient evidence to prove that the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong falsified the dossier, the Enforcement Hall won't accept your accusation since there's no proof. Naturally, if you insist on suing him, you can do so as well. Our Law Enforcement Hall will send a law enforcement elder to travel with you and verify if what you said is true or false. If the final result proves that what you said is false, our Law Enforcement Hall will deem you as blasphemous against the Law Enforcement Hall and will severely punish you." However, the words of the elder on duty in the Saint Land's Enforcement Hall that day made Lian hesitate. Blasphemy against the Enforcement Hall was not a small crime. Chapter 1956. Even Lian, the Black Turtle Sanctum's first Silver Flame Elder, did not dare to underestimate the severe punishment meted out by the Enforcement Hall. Please search for the most complete. Damn. For this reason, he had decided to leave the Saint Land Enforcement Hall and search for evidence to prove that Duan Lingtian only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root. While he was searching for evidence, he began to investigate the relationship between Duan Lingtian and Guoxiong. As an enforcement elder, Guoxiong was famous for his selflessness in the Black Turtle Sanctum. Otherwise, he would not have been appointed as the enforcement elder of the Black Turtle Sanctum by the Saint Land Enforcement Hall. If he had not seen Duan Lingtian being tested for his innate spiritual root, he would not have doubted Guoxiong's judgment at all. Lian had seen Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root being tested for a yellow innate spiritual root. That was why he thought the report Guoxiong submitted to the Saint Land Enforcement Hall was fake. In his heart, he had long assumed Duan Lingtian was a mediocre person who possessed a yellow innate spiritual root. There was only one reason a selfless person like Guoxiong would fake Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root. The relationship between him and Duan Lingtian was not simple. For this reason, Lian had been investigating the relationship between Guoxiong and Duan Lingtian in the past 2 months. However, his efforts were in vain. A technique to conceal one's innate spiritual root? Logically speaking, it's impossible. Even if such a technique exists, only powerhouses at the Saint Celestial stage and above would be able to use it. After all, only powerhouses at the Saint Celestial stage and above would be able to sense the existence of their innate spiritual root. If those below the Saint Celestial stage can't even sense their innate spiritual root, how would they be able to use a technique to conceal their innate spiritual root? Lian muttered to himself. He was certain Duan Lingtian had escaped this calamity because Guoxiong had faked the report. He did not know why Guoxiong had faked the report to help Duan Lingtian. Master! All of a sudden, a voice rang from outside, waking Lian up. Come in. As Lian spoke, a figure entered Lian's spacious mansion like a ghost and arrived at the front courtyard of Lian's residence. The person who came was a middle-aged man with a medium build. His facial features were slightly ferocious, and his messy hair was draped over his shoulders. His eyes were constantly flickering with a frightening luster. He stood there like a vicious wolf, giving people a hair-raising feeling. This middle-aged man was wearing a white robe with bronze flames embroidered on it. However, the flames did not form any pattern. Based on this, one could tell he was a bronze flame elder in the Saint Land. The uniforms of the elders and disciples of the Holy Land only had flames embroidered on them. Only the uniforms of the 4 symbol sanctum's elders and disciples would have patterns embroidered with flames. Greetings, Master. After the middle-aged man entered, he bowed respectfully to Lian Alas. Lian sighed as he looked at the middle-aged man. Wei He, I've let you down. Not only did I cause you to lose a direct disciple, but I also failed to punish the murderer. Based on Lian's words, this middle-aged man was none other than Wei He, the master of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple, Yuan Hong, who was killed by Duan Lingtian 2 months ago. Master, Yuan Hong died for you. His death was glorious. However, Wei He shook his head. As soon as his words left his mouth, his eyes gleamed coldly. However, I didn't expect his murderer to be so skillful that he didn't have to pay with his life. He's just a mediocre person with a yellow innate spiritual root. What right does he have to receive such preferential treatment? When Wei He reached the end of his sentence, his tone was slightly agitated. He only had one direct disciple under him, and that was Yuan Hong. Although Yuan Hong's innate talent was only ordinary in his opinion, he was doted on because he was sensible. After coming out of closed-door cultivation yesterday, since he had nothing to do today, he went to the Vermilion Bird Sanctum to look for his friends. Who would have thought as soon as he arrived at the Vermilion Bird Sanctum, he would learn that his direct disciple, Yuan Hong, had been killed. Moreover, the murderer was still at large. After he learned about the incident and learned the murderer, Duan Lingtian, was a Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple, he immediately came to the Black Turtle Sanctum. After he arrived at the Black Turtle Sanctum, he first went to look for his master. As far as he knew, when the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong sentenced the murderer, Duan Lingtian, 2 months ago, his master was present. He even said he would go to the Saint Land's enforcement hall to overturn Guoxiong's sentence. However, based on the current situation, His master did not seem to have achieved his goal even if he went to the St. Lands Enforcement Hall. Master, I heard you went to the St. Lands Enforcement Hall? Wei He asked as he looked at Lian. Yes. Lian nodded. It would have been fine if Wei He did not mention the St. Lands Enforcement Hall. However, as soon as he mentioned it, his expression turned grave immediately. You didn't manage to overturn Guoxiong's sentence? Wei He asked again. No. Lian shook his head. Why? Wei He had an expression of dissatisfaction on his face. As far as I know, not only did Duan Lingtian kill my disciple, but he even killed my disciple's younger brother. My disciple attacked him first and was killed by him. It can still be considered self-defense. However, it's obvious he killed my disciple's younger brother, Yuan Kuang, on purpose. Moreover, many Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples can testify that Duan Lingtian intentionally killed Yuan Kuang. Don't tell me the St. Lands Enforcement Hall approved of Guoxiong's sentence? When Wei He reached the end of his sentence, a hint of dissatisfaction could be heard in his voice. In the dossier Guoxiong submitted to the St. Lands Enforcement Hall, it said Duan Lingtian is a martial genius who possesses a blue innate spiritual root. Due to this reason, the St. Lands Enforcement Hall did not pursue the matter of Duan Lingtian intentionally killing Yuan Kuang. Lian said in a deep voice. Lian felt very depressed and aggrieved when he spoke about this. Blue innate spiritual root? Wei He was stunned. He asked again, Master, as far as I know, doesn't Duan Lingtian possess a yellow innate spiritual root? When he participated in the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple selection, you were one of the hosts, right? That's right. Lian nodded. At that time, he used 2 spiritual pearls to test his innate spiritual root, and both of them reveal that he only possesses a yellow innate spiritual root. I'm 100% certain about this. Then, does this mean there's something wrong with the dossier Guoxiong submitted? He lied about Duan Lingtian possessing a blue innate spiritual root? Wei He's eyes flashed coldly. Initially, I thought so as well. I even wanted to sue that old geezer Guoxiong for this. However, the people from the St. Lands Enforcement Hall said that if I insist on suing Guoxiong, the Enforcement Hall will accept it. However, if the Enforcement Hall finds out that I'm slandering Guoxiong, I'll be punished by the Enforcement Hall. When Lian reached this part of the sentence, a hint of dread could be seen on his face. After all, as the Enforcement Elder of the Black Turtle Sanctum, Guoxiong can be considered as a member of the Enforcement Hall. It's not a small crime to slander an Enforcement Elder. Then, Master, you're not certain if Duan Lingtian possesses a blue innate spiritual root or not? Wei He asked with a frown. Master, didn't you personally witness the test of Duan Lingtian's innate spiritual root? Didn't you confirm that he possesses a yellow innate spiritual root? It's because Duan Lingtian knows how to conceal his cultivation base. When I think about this, I'm not certain if he knows how to conceal his innate spiritual root or not. However, based on the current situation, this assumption is not valid. Lian continued to say, after all, only those at the Saint Celestial stage and above can sense their innate spiritual roots. However, Duan Lingtian is only an exemplary Saint stage martial cultivator. It's impossible for him to sense his innate spiritual root. If he can't even sense his innate spiritual root, how could he possibly conceal his innate spiritual root? That's right. Wei He's eyes brightened when he heard Lian's speculation. He agreed with this statement. It seems like the Black Turtle Sanctum's Enforcement Elder Guoxiong is indeed playing favoritism and falsifying the dossier. That's what I suspect as well. However, during these 2 months, I've been investigating the relationship between Guoxiong and Duan Lingtian, but I didn't find anything fishy. Logically speaking, as the Black Turtle Sanctum's guardian elder, Guoxiong has always been selfless. He wouldn't help a new disciple who has just entered the Black Turtle Sanctum. Lian shook his head. He could not figure this out as well. For this reason, he was hesitant and could not make up his mind to sue Guoxiong. Master, there must be something going on between Guoxiong and Duan Lingtian. It's just that you didn't notice it because he hid it well. Just like what you've said, it's impossible for Duan Lingtian to conceal his innate spiritual root. Unlike Lian, who was hesitant, Wei He said decisively, moreover, you've seen it with your own eyes. When he took the innate talent test, It indeed showed that he only has a yellow innate spiritual root. Moreover, he even tested it twice with 2 spiritual pearls. For this reason, we can be certain that Duan Lingtian only has a yellow innate spiritual root. Guoxiong must be lying. After Wei he confirmed this, he said to Lian, Master, based on all these reasons, I've decided to go to the enforcement hall in the Saint Land and sue the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong for falsifying the report that Duan Lingtian only has a blue innate spiritual root. Once it's proven that Guoxiong has falsified the report, Duan Lingtian will lose his right to rape in the Zoroastrianism. At that time, as long as the enforcement hall makes a new ruling, Duan Lingtian, who only has a yellow innate spiritual root, will definitely die. Moreover, Guoxiong will be in trouble as well. He might even be stripped of his position as the enforcement elder of the Black Turtle Sanctum. Wei He's words were filled with conviction. The moment he finished speaking, he bade farewell to Lian and left in a hurry before Lian could return to his senses. I'm really getting more and more cowardly. Since when am I not as courageous as my disciple? Lian laughed at himself when he regained his senses. Chapter 1957. There's still no substantial progress. It seems like I'll have to witness someone else casting the Black Turtle's barrier before I can comprehend and master it in a short time. 3 days passed in just a blink of an eye in the 4th level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. When Duan Lingtian opened his eyes, he could not help but sigh. However, there are less than 10 people who have successfully comprehended and mastered the Black Turtle's barrier in Zoroastrianism. In our Black Turtle Sanctum, it seems like only the Sanctum leader has mastered the Black Turtle's barrier. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. The Sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum was also a Golden Flame Elder in Zoroastrianism. It was said that he was ranked in the top 50 on the Supreme Saint ranking. Duan Lingtian. While Duan Lingtian was wondering how he could witness the Sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum casting the divine ability, the Black Turtle's barrier, a loud voice resonated in the air without any warning. The voice was extremely penetrating as it passed through the Secundus house and the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda before it entered Duan Lingtian's ears. Who's calling me? Upon hearing the voice, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel puzzled. He was certain he was not familiar with this voice. He had never heard it before. The voice was old. He could tell the person who called him was an old man. I'm Mengjin, a silver flame elder from the Black Turtle Sanctum. After the person called out to Duan Lingtian, he began to introduce himself as though he was afraid Duan Lingtian would ignore him. Mengjin? Duan Lingtian thought for a moment before he realized he had heard this name before. He was one of the 5 silver flame elders in the Black Turtle Sanctum. Compared to Lian, Guoxiong, and Tangshan, Mengjin did not have much of a presence. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian had to think carefully before he remembered him. After leaving the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and putting it away, Duan Lingtian pushed open the door and left the second house. As soon as he left the Secundus house, Duan Lingtian noticed 2 gazes that descended onto him. One of the gazes was fine, but the other gaze was filled with hostility. Duan Lingtian followed his gaze and looked over. With just a glance, he saw 2 figures standing in the air not far away, one in front and one behind. The person in front was an old man. He was wearing the exclusive uniform of the Black Turtle Sanctum's Silver Flame Elder. He had a well-built body. If one did not look above his neck, one would not be able to tell that he was an old man. The person standing behind the old man was no stranger to Duan Lingtian. This person was none other than the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple who was defeated by him 2 months ago. His name seemed to be Zhang Ji. As for the old man, he was none other than the Silver Flame Elder, Mengjin. Elder Mengjin, are you looking for me? Duan Lingtian asked curiously as he looked at the old man. You, come with me, Mengjin said indifferently. Mengjin said as he looked at Duan Lingtian indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, he began to walk out of the Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple's residence. It was as though he was not worried that Duan Lingtian would not follow him. Farewell, master. Before Duan Lingtian could make a move, he heard Zhang Ji bowing respectfully at Mengjin who was leaving. Zhang Ji's voice was filled with respect. Elder Mengjin is Zhang Ji's master? Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel surprised. Although he had seen Zhang Ji standing by Elder Mingjin's side earlier, he had thought that Zhang Ji had been captured by Elder Mingjin to ask about his residence. Who would have thought that Elder Mingjin was actually Zhang Ji's teacher? However, even though Duan Lingtian knew Mingjin was Zhang Ji's master, he still followed him. With so many people watching, he was not worried Mingjin would do anything to him. Duan Lingtian has left with Elder Mingjin. Elder Mingjin seems to be here to look for Duan Lingtian. Is he going to seek revenge for his direct disciple, Zhang Ji, for what happened 2 months ago? Do you think that's possible? That happened 2 months ago. If Elder Mingjin wants to seek revenge for Zhang Ji, he would have done it a long time ago. Why would he wait until today? You have a point. The group of Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples who happened to see Duan Lingtian leaving with Mingjin could not help but discuss among themselves. They did not leave Duan Lingtian's side at all. In any case, senior brother Duan Lingtian won't be at a disadvantage. 2 months ago, he killed 2 people in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum and caused such a huge commotion. However, he was only sentenced to 10 years of service in our 4-symbol sanctum's first mine. He killed a fellow disciple. It's not a small mistake. Didn't they say the 2 people from the Vermilion Bird Sanctum were courting death and wanted to kill Duan Lingtian? That's why they were killed by Duan Lingtian, right? Duan Lingtian acted in self-defense. That's why he was given such a light punishment. That's not the case. I have a friend who's a Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple. He witnessed what happened that day. According to him, one of the 2 Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples did attack Duan Lingtian first. However, that person might not have the intention to kill Duan Lingtian. He most likely wanted to teach Duan Lingtian a lesson to seek revenge for our Black Turtle Sanctum's Elder Lian. A Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple seeking revenge for Elder Lian? Are you sure you're not mistaken? You don't know this, right? That Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple is the direct disciple of Elder Lian's first direct disciple. He's Elder Lian's grand disciple. What's so strange about him seeking revenge for his grand master? Let's not talk about whether Elder Lian's grand disciple who attacked Duan Lingtian had the intention to kill Duan Lingtian. It's said that the other Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple was killed by Duan Lingtian, even though he did not make a move at all. In the opinion of the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciples who were present at that time, Duan Lingtian had intentionally killed Duan Lingtian. However, in the end, our Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement Elder Guoxiong only sentenced Duan Lingtian to serve in the mining area for 10 years. Don't tell me the enforcement elder from the Vermilion Bird Sanctum has no objections to Elder Guoxiong's decision? It's said that the decision to punish Duan Lingtian was made by Elder Guoxiong and the enforcement elder from the Vermilion Bird Sanctum. As the group of Black Turtle Sanctum's disciples chatted, they began to talk about the incident that Duan Lingtian had caused in the Vermilion Bird Sanctum 2 months ago. News of that incident had already spread throughout the 4-symbol sanctums. At the same time, many 4-symbol sanctums disciples questioned the decision made by the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong. However, it was useless. As the saying went, the words of a lowly person carry little weight. As time passed, fewer and fewer people discussed this matter. However, many of the 4-symbol sanctum's disciples had doubts in their hearts. Duan Lingtian had a powerful background. Otherwise, how could he have intentionally killed someone without paying with his life? On the other hand, after Duan Lingtian caught up with Mingjin, one of the 5 great silver flame elders from the Black Turtle Sanctum, he could not help but ask, "Elder Mingjin, where are you bringing me?" "You'll know when we get there," Mingjin said indifferently. "You'll find out when you get there." However, when Duan Lingtian heard Mingjin's words, he came to a halt and said with a frown, "Elder Mingjin, if you don't make it clear, don't blame me for not cooperating. Who knows if you're looking for revenge because I injured your disciple 2 months ago?" "Seek revenge from you?" When Mingjin heard Duan Lingtian's words, he was stunned for a moment before he chuckled. "An old man like me won't be so shameless as to interfere in a fight between juniors like you. Moreover, the fact that you injured him is also a form of training for him. I'm more than happy. Why would I seek revenge from you?" Mingjin's words were so frank that Duan Lingtian had no choice but to believe him. "Forget it. It's just the 2 of us now. There's no harm in telling you. After a while, Meng Jin said again, I've come to look for you on the orders of Elder Qian, the Silver Flame Elder from the Saint Land Enforcement Hall. The Saint Land Enforcement Hall? Elder Qian, the Silver Flame Elder? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes and asked, Elder Meng Jin, do you know why Elder Qian is looking for me? At this moment, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel anxious. Could it be that Lian had really overturned the decision made by Elder Guoxiong 2 months ago? However, as soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he quickly suppressed it. He felt it was impossible. With the grade of his innate spiritual root, even the Saint Land Enforcement Hall would choose to protect him. However, if Elder Guoxiong's decision wasn't overturned, why did the Silver Flame Elder from the Saint Land Enforcement Hall come to look for me in the Black Turtle Sanctum? Duan Lingtian was puzzled by this. I don't know the exact reason as well. However, Wei He came with him as well, Meng Jin said as he led the way. Duan Lingtian caught up to him again. Wei He. This was his first time hearing this name. Wei He is the direct disciple of our Black Turtle Sanctum's Elder Lian. He's also the master of Yuan Hong, the Vermilion Bird Sanctum's disciple whom you killed 2 months ago, Meng Jin said again. Yuan Hong's master? Duan Lingtian frowned. The confusion on his face grew. Under Meng Jin's lead, Duan Lingtian arrived at a secluded palace in the north of the Black Turtle Sanctum. This palace was located in the forest. It was very inconspicuous. If it was not for Meng Jin leading the way, Duan Lingtian might not have been able to find this place. The palace was slightly dilapidated, but it was still clean. Duan Lingtian followed closely behind Meng Jin and entered the main hall of the palace. With just a glance, he saw a familiar figure. The familiar figure was one of the 3 figures standing in the main hall. It was none other than the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement Elder Guoxiong. Elder Guoxiong, why are you here? Duan Lingtian asked through voice transmission when he saw Guoxiong. Someone accused me of abusing my authority and lying about the grade of your innate spiritual root to clear your name. Guoxiong replied through voice transmission. What? Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Guoxiong's words. Immediately afterward, when his gaze fell on the middle-aged man who was staring at him coldly, he vaguely guessed something. He's Wei He. He's the one who accused Elder Guoxiong of abusing his authority and lying about the grade of my innate spiritual root to clear my name? Lying about the grade of my innate spiritual root? It seems like Lian doesn't believe my innate spiritual root is blue. Chapter 1958. But, this time, I'm afraid Lian is going to screw over his own personal disciple. Duan Lingtian smirked inwardly as he looked at Wei He. Duan Lingtian, this is Elder Qian from the Saint Land's Enforcement Hall. Meng Jin introduced Elder Qian to Duan Lingtian. After leading Duan Lingtian in, he looked at the old man who was surrounded by Guoxiong and Wei He before introducing himself to Duan Lingtian. Greetings, Elder Qian. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian greeted the old man politely. Elder Qian was a scholarly old man who appeared to be very kind. When he saw Duan Lingtian greeting him, he nodded at Duan Lingtian with a gentle smile on his face. You're Duan Lingtian? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. I came to the Black Turtle Sanctum today because of the verdict your Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder, Elder Guoxiong, made on you 2 months ago. Elder Qian did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Duan Lingtian nodded again. His expression was calm as though he did not feel guilty at all. In fact, there was nothing for him to feel guilty about. Upon seeing this, Wei He smirked inwardly. Humph, you're just bluffing. Later on, when Elder Qian personally examines your innate spiritual root, I want to see if you can still be as calm as you are now. In Wei He's heart, he had already sentenced Duan Lingtian to death. He was certain Duan Lingtian only possessed a yellow innate spiritual root because of his first impression. Aren't you surprised at all? Elder Qian asked curiously when he saw Duan Lingtian's calm expression. Elder Qian, I've long guessed this would happen. However, I didn't expect the person who wants to overturn Elder Guoxiong's verdict isn't Elder Lian from our Black Turtle Sanctum. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he shifted his gaze and looked at Wei He who was standing next to Elder Qian meaningfully. There's no need for my master to overturn your verdict. When Wei He saw the mockery in Duanling Tian's eyes, he who originally did not intend to speak was instantly enraged. He could not help but sneer when he saw the mockery in Duanling Tian's eyes. Humph! However, Elder Qian was displeased by Wei He's words. He snorted. It's not that easy to overturn a verdict, an enforcement elder's verdict. Before the truth is clear, everything is still unknown. In the fire worship sect, it was equivalent to slapping the Saint Land's enforcement hall in the face if someone questioned or even tried to overturn the decision of an enforcement elder. In Zoroastrianism, all the enforcement elders, including the 4 enforcement elders from the 4 symbol sanctums, were directly appointed by the Saint Land Enforcement Hall. Questioning the verdict of any enforcement elder was equivalent to questioning the judgment of the Saint Land Enforcement Hall. For this reason, when Liam wanted to accuse the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong of abusing his power for personal gain, the elder on duty in the Saint Land Enforcement Hall had given him a warning. It was fine to accuse an enforcement elder appointed by the Enforcement Hall. However, if the truth was revealed, the accuser's actions would be considered as blasphemy against the Saint Land Enforcement Hall. In Zoroastrianism, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall was in charge of enforcing the law. It was a sacred and dignified place. If anyone dared to blaspheme against the Saint Land Enforcement Hall, they would be severely punished. The Saint Land Enforcement Hall's dignity was not to be trifled with. In the history of Zoroastrianism, many people had blasphemed against the Saint Land Enforcement Hall in various ways. Although most of them did it unintentionally, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall did not care about this. In the end, at least half of those people died from the Saint Land Enforcement Hall's punishment. Yes, Elder Qian. Wei He's heart skipped a beat when he heard Elder Qian snort. He quickly replied and no longer dared to say anything else. However, when he looked at Duanling Tian, a hint of mockery could be seen in his eyes. Whoosh! Elder Qian was a straightforward person. With a raise of his hand, he took out a spiritual pearl that was used to test innate spiritual roots and passed it to Duanling Tian. Use this spiritual pearl to test your innate spiritual root. If the spiritual pearl shows that you have a blue innate spiritual root, I'll use my divine consciousness to enter your soul to sense and investigate your innate spiritual root to see if it's really a blue innate spiritual root. Do you have any objections? As soon as Elder Qian finished speaking, his gaze turned stern as he looked at Duanling Tian. It gave Duanling Tian a sense of pressure. I'll do as you say, Elder Qian. Under Wei He's shocked gaze, Duanling Tian, who was facing the pressure from Elder Qian, was still as calm as ever. He readily reached out his hand and took the spiritual pearl from Elder Qian. He can still be so calm at a time like this? If Wei He had thought Duanling Tian was deliberately mystifying himself, he could not help but have an ominous feeling when he saw how calm Duanling Tian was when he was being tested by Elder Qian. The Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guoxiong stood on the other side of Elder Qian. From the beginning until the end, Guoxiong's expression did not change at all. In his opinion, the ruling he made to Duanling Tian was carried out according to the unspoken rules of Zoroastrianism. There was no suspicion of favoritism at all. Due to this reason, Wei He's complaint to the Saint Land Enforcement Hall was just a farce to him. In any case, he would not be the one to suffer in the end. When Duanling Tian held the spiritual pearl in his hand, apart from Guoxiong, who did not pay much attention to it, everyone else, including Elder Qian from the Saint Land Enforcement Hall, Wei He, and Meng Jin, were staring at the spiritual pearl in Duanling Tian's hand intently. They were waiting for a reaction. After the span of 10 breaths, the spiritual pearl would tell them the grade of Duanling Tian's innate spiritual root. Time continued to pass by quietly. After the span of a breath, after the span of 2 breaths, after the span of 10 breaths, the spiritual pearl in Duanling Tian's hand finally reacted. Elder Qian, Wei He, and Meng Jin immediately narrowed their eyes. Then, under the watchful eyes of the 3 of them, a faint green light shone from the spiritual pearl. In the end, the green light shone brightly. It was dazzling. It's really a blue innate spiritual root. Meng Jin could not help but exclaim in a low voice. Impossible. Wei He's expression changed drastically when he saw the green light shining from the spiritual pearl in Duanling Tian's hand. After a while, Shock and disbelief could be seen on his face. There must be something wrong with this spiritual pearl. Change it to another one. I have a spiritual pearl here as well. Change it to another one. As Wei He spoke, he hastily took out a spiritual pearl and threw it at Duanling Tian. Smack! Although Duanling Tian could ignore the spiritual pearl that Wei He threw at him, he still extended his hand to catch the spiritual pearl in order to make Wei He give up hope and despair. He wanted to use Wei He's spiritual pearl to test his innate spiritual root again. When Wei He saw Duanling Tian catching his spiritual pearl, he stared at it with a hint of hope in his eyes. At this moment, he completely viewed this spiritual pearl as his last hope. However, after the span of 10 breaths, his spiritual pearl shone with a dazzling green light as well. Horror and disbelief could be seen in his eyes. How could this be? Impossible. It's impossible. When you first entered Zoroastrianism, my master witnessed you being tested twice for your innate spiritual root. Both times, you only have a yellow innate spiritual root. You must have used some sort of trick. You must have. Wei He's face was filled with disbelief as he roared continuously. At this moment, he had completely lost his composure. Meng Jing glanced at Wei He and shook his head. At this moment, even an outsider like him could confirm that Duanling Tian indeed possessed a blue innate spiritual root. As for why Duanling Tian was tested to possess a yellow innate spiritual root when he first arrived at the Black Turtle Sanctum, he had no idea. He only believed what he saw with his own eyes. Enough. It wasn't until Elder Qian's shout that Wei He quivered and quieted down. Whether he's using some sort of trick or not, the truth will be revealed once I probe his soul with my divine consciousness and sense his innate spiritual root. Upon hearing Elder Qian's words, a glimmer of hope appeared in the depth of Wei He's eyes again. Once again, he saw Elder Qian's divine consciousness as his last hope. Duanling Tian, my divine consciousness will only probe and sense your innate spiritual root. It won't harm your soul. Therefore, there's no need for you to feel pressured. Just let it be, Elder Qian said as he looked at Duanling Tian. All right. Duanling Tian nodded. Duanling Tian's straightforwardness and cooperation left a good impression on Elder Qian. After he smiled at Duanling Tian, he extended his divine consciousness to probe and sense Duanling Tian's innate spiritual root. As soon as Elder Qian's divine consciousness entered Duanling Tian's soul, it pressured Duanling Tian. This was because Elder Qian's divine consciousness was extremely powerful. However, compared to Hua Lao's divine consciousness, Elder Qian's divine consciousness is much weaker. Soon after, Duanling Tian realized this as well. It seems like Hua Lao has recovered a lot of his strength. If he can come out of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda with his strength and divine abilities, even the golden flame elder of Zoroastrianism might not be a match for him. When Duanling Tian thought of this, he felt it was a pity. It was a pity Hua Lao could not come out. Otherwise, Hua Lao would be a super fighter by his side. If he had a super fighter by his side, he would have charged into the Saint Land Enforcement Hall of Zoroastrianism to rescue his wife and daughter and bring them away from Zoroastrianism. Is this Wei He an idiot? Things have already come to this, and he's still holding on to hope? Chapter 1959. Soon after, Elder Qian withdrew his divine consciousness under the watchful eyes of the others. Wei He immediately looked at Elder Qian. The hope in his eyes grew brighter. There's no doubt Duanling Tian possesses a blue innate spiritual root. Sensing Wei He's gaze, Elder Qian swept his gaze over Wei He. His gaze instantly turned cold as he sternly shouted, Wei He, you've slandered the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder Guixiong. This is equivalent to disrespecting the Saint Land's Enforcement Hall. Now, follow me back to the Saint Land Enforcement Hall to receive your punishment. Just as Elder Qian finished speaking, Wei He's expression changed completely, becoming fearful and uneasy. Elder Qian, I'm only worried because my direct disciple was killed. Please have mercy, Elder Qian. Please have mercy. In the next instant, Wei He no longer cared about Duanling Tian as he begged Elder Qian for mercy. If he was sent to the Saint Land Enforcement Hall, he would be skinned alive even if he did not die. Hermph. However, Elder Qian completely ignored Wei He's begging. After he snorted coldly, he waved his hand and a vast energy pressed down on Wei He, suppressing him. After suppressing Wei He, Elder Qian lifted him up like an eagle catching a chick. Elder Guoxiong, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall will give you an explanation for Wei He slandering you, Elder Qian said as he looked at Guoxiong. After he finished speaking, he brought the pale-faced Wei He away. In just a blink of an eye, they disappeared before the eyes of Duan Lingtian and the others. Duan Lingtian, I can't believe you possess a blue innate spiritual root. After Elder Qian brought Wei He away, Meng Jin looked at Duan Lingtian and sighed. I was wondering why Elder Guoxiong would take care of you 2 months ago. As it turns out, it's because you possess a blue innate spiritual root. It's enough for you to be taken care of by the unspoken rules of Zoroastrianism. Thank you for leading the way, Elder Meng Jin. Duan Lingtian nodded at Meng Jin. Although he was not fond of Meng Jin's direct disciple, Zhang Ji, he approved of Meng Jin's character. At the very least, Meng Jin wouldn't blindly protect him. This could be seen from Meng Jin's attitude on the road. I still have some things to do. Elder Guoxiong, Duan Lingtian, I'll take my leave first. After a short moment, Meng Jin bid farewell and left, leaving only Duan Lingtian and Guoxiong in the hall. Meng Jin had tactfully left because Guoxiong had instructed him to. Guoxiong had something to say to Duan Lingtian in private. Duan Lingtian, you'll head to the Four Symbols Sanctum's first mine in a month. Are you ready? Guoxiong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked. I've been ready for a long time. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly before he said, Speaking of which, I still have to thank you for your judgment, Elder Guoxiong. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have been executed 2 months ago. You don't have to thank me. You know very well that you're only alive because of your innate talent. If your innate spiritual root wasn't a blue innate spiritual root but a yellow innate spiritual root, I wouldn't have been able to protect you even if I wanted to. Guoxiong said, perhaps, at that time, what happened today would have happened as well. However, Wei He wouldn't be the unlucky one. We would be the unlucky one. Wei He. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as it flashed coldly. He could not help but ask, Elder Guoxiong, what kind of punishment will Wei He receive for slandering you and blaspheming the Saint Land Enforcement Hall? Will he be executed by the Saint Land Enforcement Hall? He won't be executed. Guoxiong shook his head. His eyes flashed coldly when he mentioned Wei He. However, even if he doesn't die, he'll be skinned alive. Blaspheming the Saint Land Enforcement Hall is not a small crime. Moreover, Elder Qian has already promised me that the Saint Land Enforcement Hall will give me an explanation. For this reason, I'm certain Wei He won't be lightly punished. Guoxiong continued to say, he won't be executed? Duan Lingtian was disappointed when he heard this. Wei He's actions today were clearly to harm him. If his innate spiritual root was a yellow innate spiritual root instead of a blue innate spiritual root, he would have been killed by Wei He. Duan Lingtian had always advocated an eye for an eye for an eye for an eye for an eye. Naturally, he was disappointed when he heard Wei He would not be executed by the Saint Land Enforcement Hall. Why? Do you really want him to die? Since Duan Lingtian did not deliberately conceal his emotions, Guoxiong could easily see through it and asked in a timely manner, Don't tell me you don't want him to die after being slandered by him, Elder Guoxiong? Duan Lingtian asked. To me, even if he doesn't die, he'll be skinned alive. That's enough to quench my anger. Naturally, I'll feel better if he's executed. Duan Lingtian was slightly disappointed when he heard the first half of Guoxiong's sentence. However, when Guoxiong finished his sentence, Duan Lingtian realized he and Elder Guoxiong were kindred spirits. However, it won't be easy for him to be executed. If he's not at the Saint Celestial stage or above, he won't be able to survive the Saint Land Enforcement Hall's punishment. Unfortunately, as a Saint Land Bronze Flame Elder, he's only at the Saint Celestial stage. Guoxiong sighed when he reached the end of his sentence. A hint of pity could be heard in his voice. Elder Guoxiong. However, at this moment, Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed as he asked, If I'm not mistaken, The news of Wei He accusing you and asking the Saint Land Enforcement Hall's elder to come here shouldn't have spread, right? Yes. Guo Xiong nodded. Usually, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall wouldn't spread such news. After all, the Enforcement Hall can't be sure if I'm really cheating or not. If I'm really cheating, it'll damage the Saint Land Enforcement Hall's reputation if news of this spreads out. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Duan Lingtian nodded. His eyes gleamed coldly as he asked again, however, if news of Wei He slandering you and blaspheming the Saint Land Enforcement Hall spreads out, what would the consequences be? If news of this spreads out, it won't damage the Saint Land Enforcement Hall's reputation. The Saint Land Enforcement Hall won't pursue the matter, right? Theoretically, yes. However, once news of this spreads out, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall will be pressured as well. If Wei He's punishment isn't severe enough, it won't show that the Saint Land Enforcement Hall's reputation is not to be trifled with. Guoxiong replied instinctively when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. However, in the end, his eyes brightened as he stared at Duan Lingtian intently. You're saying we should spread this news so the Saint Land Enforcement Hall will be pressured into killing Wei He to protect the Saint Land Enforcement Hall's dignity? It's not me, it's you. Duan Lingtian shook his head. I'm just an ordinary black Turtle Sanctum's disciple. I don't dare to spread news of this at the risk of offending the Saint Land's Black Turtle Sanctum. Elder Guoxiong, as the Black Turtle Sanctum's enforcement elder appointed by the Saint Land Enforcement Hall, even if news of this spreads out, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall won't blame you. Moreover, if you do this, the Saint Land Enforcement Hall will think you deliberately spread news of this because Wei He provoked you. That's why you want to kill him. Duan Lingtian's words were flawless. Duan Lingtian, you're really wishful thinking. Guoxiong was stunned by Duan Lingtian's words. When he regained his senses, he could not help but stare at Duan Lingtian intently. However, are you so sure I'll spread news of this to force the Saint Land Enforcement Hall to kill Wei He? I'm not sure. Duan Lingtian shook his head. I'm only giving you a suggestion, Elder Guoxiong. As for whether you want to spread news of this, the choice is in your hands, Elder Guoxiong. Just like Elder Guoxiong, although I want him to die, his death doesn't affect me at all. I, Duan Lingtian, have even offended his master, Lian. How could I be afraid of him? When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he smiled disdainfully. Duan Lingtian, in the past, I thought it was unwise for you to make an enemy out of Lian because I thought you overestimated yourself. However, why do I suddenly have a feeling that you'll be the one who has the last laugh in this game of chess with Lian? Guoxiong looked at Duan Lingtian intently again. Although he appeared calm on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. Duan Lingtian's suggestion to force the Saint Land Enforcement Hall to kill Wei He showed how meticulous he was. It was not something an ordinary person could compare to. At the very least, Guoxiong did not think of this. Elder Guoxiong, you flatter me. I'm merely an ordinary Black Turtle Sanctum's disciple. How can I possibly fight with Lian? He's the first Silver Flame Elder in our Black Turtle Sanctum. Duan Lingtian smiled humbly. However, his words were casual. It was obvious he was saying one thing, but he was thinking another. Naturally, Guoxiong could see Duan Lingtian's insincerity, but he did not point it out. Then, Guoxiong smiled faintly and said, Duan Lingtian, 2 months ago, I intended to recommend you to Lord Sanctum Leader so that he could accept you as his direct disciple. If Lord Sanctum Leader accepts you as his direct disciple, as long as he recommends you to enter the Saint Land and become a Saint Land disciple, you'll naturally be exempted from the punishment of serving in the mine. However, when I went to look for Lord Sanctum Leader 2 months ago, I learned he was at a critical juncture in his closed-door cultivation. For this reason, I didn't disturb him. Until now, he hasn't come out of his closed-door cultivation. Guoxiong continued to say, if Lord Sanctum Leader doesn't come out of his closed-door cultivation within a month, I'll have no choice but to personally send you to serve in the first mine of our 4 symbol sanctums. However, don't worry. As soon as Lord Sanctum Leader comes out of his closed-door cultivation, I'll definitely recommend you to him. Upon hearing Guoxiong's words, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes. The Sanctum Leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum was actually in closed-door cultivation? Duan Lingtian immediately dismissed the idea of watching the sanctum leader of the Black Turtle Sanctum cast the divine ability. The Black Turtle's Barrier. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.